Let's see. Okay, it looks like it made the connection. It looks like it is sending the gigabit. Now to see if it actually shows up in the YouTubes. Let me copy the link so I have it. Technical difficulties as usual. All right, well, okay, there we go. Okay, excellent connection. And it's thinking about it. It's thinking about, and boom. Okay, I got telemetry. I still don't have a video though. Oh, there it is. Okay, live, and there we are. Okay, woo. Okay, that took a while. I was getting worried. Guys. There's some technical difficulties and shit there. Oh, we got 9 concurrent viewers. Okay, so people actually are coming in. Yeah, only 9.
Oh, man.
That's what happens when you have technical difficulties and you don't create the stream way at a time.
Yep. Dead channel.
Dead channel, man. Done. I quit, man. This is our final show. Glad you guys could catch it.
Yep. Sorry, guys.
Yep. It's going away forever, man. I'm going to go get a job at McDonald's because then I don't have to go very far to get the food.
There you go. And then you'll get like health insurance.
I would actually. Wouldn't that be wonderful, man? Good old health insurance. Like, and probably maybe even some health insurance where I don't have like a $12 billion deductible.
Right.
Yeah.
I've genuinely thought about trying to do like part-time at Starbucks but I would have to shave. Cause like even part-time, you get their medical insurance, and after like 6 months or a year, they start giving you stock options.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's pretty sweet. Wow, you can't have a beard at Starbucks, man. I thought that would have been like the hipsterest thing you could have.
Yeah, well, it's a health code thing.
Oh, okay, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I guess that kind of makes sense. Like, we're just getting like their drink, and you're like, your beard hair is like sticking down through the top and like stirring and mixing in there. Like, man, this tastes a lot like beard conditioner.
Right.
That'd be so gross.
Yeah.
You open up the top, there's just like 14. You can't tell that they're not pubes. You're like, Sure, you look over at the barista. You're like, I'm sure that's. I hope that's his beard hair. I'm really, really hoping. Guys, sorry we started a little bit late this morning. That's my bad. I woke up, I was feeling like garbage, so I needed some time to get some food in me and take a couple dumps and jump in the shower. And now I'm feeling slightly less crappy. So that's good. That's good. And I got coffee. Do you got coffee there, sir?
Actually, I could use some more coffee. I finished it before the stream.
You sir should have some coffee. I think that's critically important to the success of this broadcast. Powered by Java, not the shitty software.
Hey, Java's not so bad.
Dude, Java's a piece of shit, man. It's like the biggest security hole in any computer system. That's where the hacker is going to be like, you know what? I'm going to go in through the Java port.
I suppose.
I'm gonna show that Java port who's boss and just get all up in there.
It's really not that much different from C++. Like, let's be real.
Oh, do you want to go?
No.
Do you want to go? Do you want to go right now, sir?
Because I don't have that much experience with C++. But what I have seen C+ code, and I have worked in Java, at least Java for Android, and they're pretty close.
No, they look the same, but how they run is completely different. Like, that's the thing, is they look syntactically they look the same, but and that's by design too. Microsoft completely ripped them off. Like, even the namespaces and everything, like you could tell that Microsoft just took Java and said, you know what, C# would look a lot cooler if it just was Java, and then Java developers could come over and use C# if it was a lot easier to use.
And C# is amazing.
It is. It's my favorite language on earth.
Yeah, C# is great.
Yeah, if you don't like C#, you're a communist. I mean, it's that simple. Hey, Johnny Winter, thank you for the 50 Danish kroners, my friend. He said, here from the start, but need to pick up a drunk parent later.
It happens.
It happens, man. Like, you know, hey.
Good on you for looking after your parents.
Put it this way, most of us wouldn't exist if it wasn't for drunk parents. You know, because it's like I'm just saying, a little drinky drink makes the pull-out game weak, and then all of a sudden you got a little Barnacules running around making streams on the internet and stuff.
How well does C# stand up to C++ in terms of performance? That, I think, and I'm sure Jerry will chime in because he's a better coder than me. I would say the terms of performance is going to depend on the guy writing the code.
That's a good answer. That is a good answer. No, you're absolutely right. But there are
person writing the code. I don't mean to be sexist. There are plenty of good female coders out there.
Oh, you're in trouble now. That's going to come back in 15 years and cancel you, brother. No. I will tell you right now that if you are the best C++ developer on earth that knows every single API, documented and undocumented, and you're also proficient with assembly, you can write more efficient code in C++ than you could in C# because C# picks a lot of the paths for you. However, if you are a mediocre to shitty C++ developer, the C# coder will run around you all day because C# will fix a lot of your problems and optimize a lot of your shit out.
Right.
And that's why I like C# is because they even actually did a demo of it. They took Doom, which I would say Doom from back in the day was a pretty well coded game because it had to run on shitty hardware, right? It was well optimized. They like rewrote it in C#. They transcribed it to C# and it picked up like another like 30% frames per second.
Wow.
And the reason being is because the runtime compiler just optimized stuff for modern hardware where the original code was not optimized for modern hardware.
Okay. So I would think like the C++, you have to, I don't know, maybe modern C++ is a little different, but I know that the closer you get to just C, you have to handle your memory management manually.
It's the same with C++. I mean, both C and C++ have libraries that you can use for memory management, but it's not built in. And C# memory management's built in. Like in C#, there's a concept of something. Well, not. And when I say C#, I'm saying .NET framework specifically.
Right.
C#. There's many languages that all get compiled down to something called MSIL, which is Microsoft's intermediary language. It's basically just a virtual version of assembly. Yeah. And so you can do like F#, C#. Hell, there's even like you can do Java. You can even or JavaScript. You can even compile using the .NET runtime. So, but what garbage collect? It's all built on something called garbage collection, which is anytime that you create an object and use it, it automatically expands and optimizes it for you within your parameters. And then once you leave it alone or you just chuck it to the side and stop using it, it will choose when the optimal time is to take that memory and resource back to the computer. Right. In C++, C#, you don't get that. In C++ and C#, it's like you create a pointer, you allocate some memory, you better make damn sure that every code path that happens releases that resource. Because if it doesn't, throughout the entire execution of that program, it'll just be abandoned and allocated, which is they call them memory leaks. Yep. And memory leaks are possible in C#, but to do a memory leak in C#, you literally have to keep something in scope forever and keep allocating to it and never using it, which means it's more of a severe coding problem.
Yeah, that's like initializing a bunch of global variables and never doing anything with them.
Exactly, and that's the situation. And even in that case, go ahead.
Bad practice. Don't do that.
Yeah, no. Always keep stuff in the scope, the minimal scope that you need.
Yeah, it was drilled into us. Like if you're using a global variable like at all, you're probably doing something wrong.
Yeah. Like optical antenna set standard templates, or STL and smart pointers. Yeah, there is a way in C++ to do memory management where you don't have to get like heavily involved, but still in C++ and C, you can use those libraries and pull them in to augment your programming. But whereas in C#, you have to use it. There's no way around it. Like honestly, the only way to be like a complete dickhole in C# would be to like import through using something called not reflection, interop. You would have to actually like pull in Win32 like C++ binaries and then create stubs for them and call into them. And even then the garbage collector is pretty good about recovering the memory from those resources when you stop using them. So, but technically even in C#, just let you know, you can call C++ inside of C#. You can call assembly inside of C#. It's not, it's frowned upon. But you can do it. And the reason being is there's certain things in C# or the runtime that may not achieve what you need to do for your program. And in order for you to be able to program literally anything, sometimes you have to be able to create additional libraries that use low level code and so forth and so on.
And it's pretty, and so I dabbled with C# when it was still like brand new. It was just in fact, .NET was like a new thing. And I remember that it was kind of a cool thing that you could like natively import just straight C or C++ like libraries and stuff without having to tweak it. It was like you did have to know how to like basically communicate with the library properly, like send in variables appropriately and take them back out appropriately, things like that. But it was very robust in like being able to like import legacy code, I guess, and still work with it very. Yeah,
I believe the attribute was even called like DLL import or import DLL. It's been a while since I've done it, but yeah, you had to actually import it, and then you had to create a header basically for each API that you wanted to call that would transform between the .NET type and the pure C++ type. That it was managed, because they wouldn't allow you to just call directly into it. You had to create a template to make it managed.
Right.
And I actually had to do that a lot early on. Like in the first
Oh.
generations of the .NET framework, it couldn't do shit. Like to do stuff with like network stacks and advanced stuff, I was interoping all the time. But the problem with interop that you run into really, really quickly is the .NET framework will grow and grow and grow and start implementing the functionality that you need in a much better way. And then you won't go back and update it. You'll leave it connected to the old legacy code. And then if they update that old legacy code, it can break your program. Oops. Yeah. You know, because there can even be cases in there where it's like they'll change and create a new API. Like that's one thing I hated about C and C++ is it was really hard to deprecate an old API. I mean, thrown away. You couldn't just throw away an old API because it would break compatibility and execution of a bunch of other programs, right? So what they would do is they would just add a new API and make it the new version of it. So you'd end up having like this _ T for Unicord _ net socket 3, net socket 4, net socket 5. And you'd end up having like 20 APIs at one point that all did the same thing, but they were just new revisions of it that would add additional parameters and overloads. And it just got really, really messy. And I like the way that C# and .NET handles that is when you add the new functionality, you can basically choose at execution time which framework you want to use, and then it'll call the API for the version of the framework that you're using. So if you want to use the new API and gain the benefits from it, you just update to the newest version of the framework and say run on that framework. And if that doesn't work or it breaks, then you can basically lock it into just using the old framework and not updating to the new framework. And if you want to add additional parameters and different overloads of the function, you can add as many as you want, and you don't have to create all these like weird names for the functions. They can literally take in each one can take in a different set of parameters while having the same function name. And I like stuff like that because it makes it really easy to code when you only have to remember, you know, the one API. And if there's 5,000 different ways that you can call it, that's fine. You can flip through those in Visual Studio using Intellisense, and it's nice and neat. And I love that. I love that about C# is that C# is a very lazy language that's very powerful. You can do you can do almost anything in it. With a few exceptions, like you're not going to be writing kernel drivers. There was a project to do that, but they never did it. What's that?
Oh, well, it's like it wasn't really meant. It's meant to be, you know, near human readable kind of. It was I don't know. I found it to be a tremendously like user friendly or like beginner friendly language. It was. And with Intellisense, oh man, if you get to use like the actual Visual Studio IDE, Intellisense, you'll never want to do any manual coding ever again.
Like, once you get used to it, yeah, you don't want to ever go back. It makes coding so much easier.
Oh, being able to, like, you'll have, I can't remember a lot of the vocabulary now, but like you'll have different functions that will take in different inputs, or it's like similar. What is it? It relates to like inheritance and polymorphism and all that shit. You'll have like certain. Oh, now again, I'm forgetting. You'll have a function but different. Was it overloads or different?
If it's different arguments, then yeah, that's the overload. So you have like one argument version, 2 argument version, or different types, same number of arguments with different types.
Same function, but maybe one version of it will only take 1 input, another version of it will take 2 inputs, whatever.
Yep, those are overloads.
And you can just tab through them, like, oh, I don't want that function because I'm actually handling. It's not, you know, I need the 3 input one instead. Boop, boop, and you can tab through that, and like, instead of having to keep like notes somewhere, like I don't know how you did it in the old days. Like,
yeah, it's called MSDN.
Holy cow!
You literally went to MSDN and looked up like the API, and then find the 5,000 versions.
Geez, the different
You'd be like, do I want to call the one that's Unicode? Do I want to call, because you literally had to like your APIs. You had to choose, like later on they had templates where you could where you could basically use like _T, and then it compilation time it would decide whether it was using the Unicode or the ANSI standard version of the API. But sometimes you'd want to call one or the other specifically. You wouldn't want the compiler to make that decision. So when you did that stuff, you had to actually go through all your program to make like the active decision in your head. It's like, do I want the compiler to pick for me, or do I want to be very specific in what I pick? And I like that C# and .NET take a lot of that out of it. Like in .NET, you're like, I very specifically want to do a thing. There's usually a high level library that lets me achieve and do that thing. That library is heavily instrumented. It throws exceptions when it's supposed to, and they're exceptions that make sense that you can actually take corrective action on. And with C++ and C and just straight C, you don't really get a lot of that. C is not very heavy in throwing very good exceptions. You end up getting a shitload of unhandled exceptions. Is what you get in most C code. In the C++, you do get better exception handling, but nowhere near the same level that you get with C#. Like C# and the .NET framework were built on top of an exception handling model and making them so easy to debug. That's the other thing is C++. You have to have private symbols. And there's no reflections to get the code back without the symbol. Like you can't just like resolve the optimized code back into the code that it came from or something similar. With .NET, because it creates this Microsoft intermediary language, you can actually use something called reflector that will take a binary and turn it back into source code. It won't be the exact same source code without symbols, but it'll be like readable source code that you can understand what's going on and actually debug it better. So I always preferred debugging .NET applications and stuff, but the problem is it's just not well suited for drivers. It's not well suited for kernel work. And not to say that you can't run it in the kernel. You can actually now in Windows run .NET in the kernel. But the problem with it is they created, like the whole reason the .NET framework was originally created is because they wanted to create a managed operating system. And that was Windows Vista before the reset. So the reason they had to reset the project is because Windows Vista, the entire kernel, the driver architecture, WinFS, which was the file system that never made it, Explorer, the UI and everything were all written in this .NET 1.0 back in the day. And it was so slow and so resource intensive. I mean, they could never optimize it. Like we worked on it for 3 years. We couldn't get it optimized to where it would run even on high-end hardware. It ran like a dog. So that's when David Cutler, made the decision and came forward and said, no, we're just going to reset and we're going to go back to an unmanaged operating system, but then we'll start building the application layer on top of it using .NET. And then that progressed over Windows 7, Windows 8, 8.1, and now Windows 10. And now a lot of code's managed. Like I would argue that probably half of the Windows operating system, as far as the higher level componentry and libraries and stuff, is now .NET derived. And I like that because it's fast now. It's like they figured it out. They optimized the crap out of it, and it's amazing. Yeah. So let's see. Michael, thank you for the $5 super chat. We appreciate that support. He said, I can't donate much for a little while as I started payment plan for festival tickets. Dude, get after it, man. This COVID thing's starting to round the corner. About time we got back to real life. He said, but I'll still be around, just letting you know. Well, dude, have a blast. Get them festival tickets and party on, dude. As a matter of fact, I'm going over to see Adam tomorrow. Like, it's weird. I went hot tubbing with him the other day, and it was like the most bizarre experience because I hadn't been around, him in person without like a mask or socially distanced, in his driveway or whatever for, over a year. Right. So that was a pretty unique experience. I was like, wow, I'm looking at another human I don't live with. This is crazy. So I'm going back tomorrow. We're gonna fuck around with some audiophile stuff. He's got some new headphones and some new amps and stuff. And I want to hear what audio sounds like for richer people. Nice. So I'll let you guys know how that experience goes. So it's probably going to end up like ruining my blissful ignorance though. Like I'll go listen to stuff and then I'll come home and I'll slap on my hi-fi man HE100s with my O2 amp and be like, man, this sounds flat and uninspired. And I'll go put on my turtleneck and drink my little cognac or whatever. and with my special bulbs that cost $3,000 to change the color temperature by like 3 degrees to like enhance my mood while listening. It'll be something like that. How was the hot tub? Sushi Boy said, amazing. Dude, I cannot wait to get my hot tub.
That's great on your back, huh?
Dude, I got in there and it's like, this is probably the longest I've ever gone without being in a body of water. Like I used to go swimming. I used to go hot tubbing all the time. It's like, I literally have not been in anything other than my bathtub. I've not been in for like a year. So I jump in there and I'm like the most buoyant I've ever been in my life. Probably because I just got fatter through COVID. But I get in there and it's like, I had to put like swimming weights on my legs to like weight me down because they just kept floating up to the top. And it felt glorious, man. It felt absolutely glorious. Right on. So I can't wait to get my hot tub. I'm gonna live in that thing. So prepare your guys yourself for a hot tub tech talk coming in the future.
What is the best coding language to learn first? I'm a marketing student and need to learn some coding for data science stuff, but don't know where to begin. Okay, so data science stuff, probably Python.
That's actually a good recommendation. Yeah, I just started doing a little Python development about 6 months ago when I had to hack my Sleep Number bed. And I can tell you that Python is a very, very quick language to grasp. It's very high level. Like you can actually do some low level stuff in it, but it's very high level. Like you don't have to do a lot of code to get to what you need as long as you're not doing stuff that's crazy off the path, non-standard.
And it is like the standard when it comes to like scientific computing, machine learning, any of that kind of stuff. It's Python is the way to go.
It's literally like one of the most cross-platform languages there is. So And for data science stuff, if you're not building anything at a machine level that takes advantage of like very specific hardware, like you're not building something that specifically is optimized for AMD. See, that's where C and C++ really shine, is that you can override the compiler's directives, which mean you can optimize anything you want. Like if you want to take a C++ program and write a 10,000 line library to optimize everything for like an SSE3 instruction set and give the compiler the middle finger and be like, I know better. You can do that. You can do that in C and C++, and you're not going to do that as easily in things like C# and Python. But Python can also interop on native code. Like I noticed that. Like in Python, you can still call into like a Win32 DLL, and you can still call a native API. It's just like with C# though, it's encapsulated. So like if something breaks or something blows up, right, they wrap their managed shit around it. Which, you know, of course is going to eat a little bit more resources and stuff. But honestly, for data science stuff, you'll probably find that you will be more optimized and better use of resources as a middle of the road developer. Whereas C and C++, you're only really going to benefit from that really tight coding if you know exactly what you're doing. And very few C and C++ developers, even at Microsoft, when you went and looked through the code for like VGA sys and some of the drivers and stuff like that, you could tell these guys, you know, they're fresh out of school. They don't know all the little tricks of the trade. They don't understand all the little compiler optimizations and how to utilize them to save like resources, nor do they really care, right? Because resources are cheap nowadays. So you don't see them going through, you know, hell to try to make this like flawless code anymore like they used to back in the day when you had such limited resources. It's like, look at a game program today versus like Nintendo back in the day. Like I remember, like you ever played Mario Brothers? It's like half the sprites in Mario Brothers are the same sprite, just mirrored or flipped over, or quadrants of it reorganized. And the color of the sprite is changed by shifting the entire color palette for the whole sprite set. And it allows them to give the illusion that you're seeing all these like really cool things. But if you look at the sprite table, it's tiny. Yeah. There's not very many things going on because they didn't have the space. They literally didn't have the memory. They didn't have the processing power, and they didn't have the storage. So they had to figure out all these tricks of compression and stuff like that, even back then, to get the game to work. Nowadays, it's not like that. Nowadays, it's like, fuck it, throw the 4K uncompressed texture in there, and you know, Unity. Let it optimize it when you start the game, so it takes up even more storage. And it's just easier to develop, and it produces less bugs. Because you are going to eat more resources and everything like that, but by you not doing all this crazy optimization code that requires breaking, you know, the laws of computer programming, you're going to have a lot less little transient issues that pop up and break your code all the time. So I prefer nowadays that people are more comfortable using more resources, because realistically resources are cheap now. Well, they were. I mean, crypto kind of ruined that for us, and so did COVID. But resources used to be cheap. So like you have a computer that has 64 gigabytes of memory in it. It's like you don't really have to be that careful about, you know, your memory use. The same thing with graphics cards. Graphics cards used to have like 16 bytes of memory or 16 kilobytes or whatever. And now your average graphics card has what? Like maybe like 4 to 6 gigabytes, high end, like 12 to 24 gigabytes. Just on a graphics card. That's just texture memory. So you really don't have to be careful anymore. And especially when you're creating like I guess the exception to that would be if you're doing like massive size image processing and stuff like Adobe products, like Adobe Photoshop and Premiere and stuff, where you're dealing with just massive, like hundreds of gigabytes of data, then little optimizations are going to help you a lot. But in standard day-to-day development, like if you're just doing some data science stuff and you're not working with a data set that literally takes years to process, you're probably not going to benefit hugely spending all the time to learn how to make the most highly optimized and volatile thing you can in C and C++ when you can just write something really quickly in Python or C# that may be a little bit slower, but is much more stable and much easier to debug when something goes wrong. That's actually something that I think a lot of people don't focus on in development. Is debuggability is the most important thing as a software developer that you can
comment your code.
Comment your code, name your variables appropriately. When you create globals, make it obvious they're globals. When you create locals, make sure they're locals. Make sure that you have exception handling that isn't blanket. You know, you get a lot of people that are just like, you want to create the most stable program in the world, you know, main, void, try, do everything. And if it doesn't work, then call main again. Just recurse on it until you blow the stack. No, there's people that did that, like go-tos, like just for fun.
What is this, basic?
No, here's the kind of code
go-tos.
No, this is the funny thing. It's considered spaghetti code. Anytime you use a go-to, it's called spaghetti code.
Very frowned upon. You are
But here's the funny thing. In C#, it's the one area where go-tos can actually be faster than most other coding practices in certain situations. Because the way that they're handled by the runtime compiler is different than, say, if you used a go-to in like C or C++. But I still don't use them because I still think they're bad form and they make it hard to debug code because following the logic path is difficult when you have all these weird go-tos everywhere. But just for fun, you know, well, actually it wasn't for fun. We had a program that was breaking in production at Microsoft, and it had to be fixed immediately, and we didn't have time to debug it properly. It's like literally the shit's got to be back online in 15 minutes. Every time we run the program, it runs like 2 or 3 iterations and it crashes. We don't know why. It hits a million databases. We don't know which one is at fault. We don't have the private symbol for some reason for the binary. We're like, what the fuck's going on? We can't do it. If we build a new binary, it's going to be a new binary, so the symbol's not going to align, so we still won't be able to debug it. So we're just like, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? So we popped the code open. We literally just put a try catch around the entire main block and then just did a retry. so we built it and we released it, and that bought us the 2 or 3 days that we needed to find the problem, fix it, optimize it, and redeploy. So there is you know, exception cases where, you know, you want to do something like that. It's just a patch, but you would never ever want to do that in like permanent production. Yeah, you know, just a little patch-a-rooney, you know, nothing big. Hey, what's up, Miss Liz? How's it going? Hope you're having a wonderful day. But yeah, I'd say if you're getting into software development, debuggability is like critical when you're writing a program. And a lot of people will do like, oh, I'm just going to sandbox, right? I'm just going to go write some like shitty code and prove a theory. And then next thing you know, you're like 10,000 lines of code into the thing. And you're like, okay, I'm ready to go and use this somewhere else. And you can't until you go through the entire program and sort it out. Otherwise, it's just a train wreck. So write your shit good from the start. Like if you're going to play around with a function or two here and there, that's fine to just not do any error handling or anything, but do not use anything in production that does not have proper exception handling, proper error checking, proper variable checking. That's another thing is like, we'd have developers that would be like, well, I wrote the functions and I'm the only one that call those functions, so I don't have to check the values. Like I know the values are going to be right because I wrote the functions. Like, yeah, but you don't know that somebody else isn't going to come along down the road and go and change something and cause a cascade effect because you didn't spend 3 seconds to throw an exception saying the variable was out of range, you know? And shit like
careful though. They're going to be crooked, and it's definitely not going to fold in. But you should at least be able to wear them.
Okay. For right now.
Yeah, for now.
Glasses.
Look at him throwing down that parental advice.
We were at the Defy bouncy place, and a friend of the interns, her glasses broke.
So is that like the trampoline, indoor trampoline place?
Yeah.
The one that I'm not allowed to go to because I just break all the springs and bottom out in the pits?
Nah, man, they're robust. You just might get caught up in the foam pit though. It's like
that's fine.
It's hard to get out of.
I'll live in the foam pit. That's fine. Do they have like a crane they can drop in there and just fish me out like a mackerel?
Just about. Like a big grabber arm thing.
Dude, I used to, it's funny that you're talking about trampolines because just last night we were watching YouTube videos of these people on these trampolines, like getting stuck in the springs and like trying to jump into pools and missing the pool off the deck and like getting all stuck up. I mean, trampolines can be really dangerous, but like I grew up and my neighbor had a trampoline and I was on that thing all the time. And I ended up getting good. Fun. I could do double front flips. I could only ever do a single back flip. Oh yeah, I could do it all. Even today, if you got me on a trampoline that wouldn't bottom out and break my spine on the ground, I could still do a front flip like no sweat.
That's
no
cool.
sweat. So, but now I haven't done it in so long just because of my back and shit, you know, it's like, but man, I love trampolines. My God.
It was fun.
Yeah, no,
damn man, we got 500 sexes.
We got 500 sexes
from I Am Me.
I Am Me loves the sex us up. Thank you, the 500 sexes. Here, have some sex to have you going.
Thank you.
That level of sex definitely does get us going.
That's a lot. Yeah.
That's a lot of sexes, man. A lot of sexes. Let's see. Scroll on over here in chat. Let's see what's going on. We got some new faces in here. Oh, hey, what's up, Unity Tech? How's it going, brother?
Oh, what up?
What's up, Unity Tech? We got Skylar Jensen in the house. Said, remember when GPUs were actually available? Yeah, you know what though? Like we are seeing this crypto crash now. We can talk a little bit about that. Here, let me go look at my Bittrex and cry.
Because like I wouldn't say crash. This is definitely a dip, a what do they call it? A bear market, right? But I don't think that this is like crash necessarily.
Everybody calls it a crash though. That's kind of why I put it in the title like that, is because everybody panics and calls it a crash. But this happens every single year. Every year this has happened. Go ahead.
Well, I'm looking at my Coinbase, right? So at some, like I said before, at some point somebody gave me like $12 in Bitcoin, and it's in my Coinbase. I have not done anything with this. I haven't touched it since it was given to me. It was put into this wallet at some point in 2018. $12, $11.99 is what it says at the very beginning. Right at its peak, it was worth 60 something, 70 something. Hang on, I'm trying to see here. Call it $73. It's right now sitting at the lowest it's been since that peak is 42. Like, that's not that bad. That's not even hardly a crash. Like, I'm still way up over the last 3 years, like way up.
Yeah, if you factor it over time. But here's what people get worried about is, like, my crypto portfolio. I lost, if you want to just do the paper money game, right? Well, it's not paper money. I actually have. No. Well, I actually have. Like, I had, in my peak, I was $27,000 in real money that I had accumulated. But again, that was because it was going up like crazy for a long time. And so after the crash, I was down to 17. So I lost $10,000. I lost basically over a third of my entire portfolio. But here's the thing. This has happened like 5 times before, where it just has a mega drop like this, and then you wait like 3 to 6 months, and it comes back and it exceeds where it previously was. And Bitcoin does this every year. If you go back through Bitcoin's history, every single year, and especially like every 2 years, there's a major crash where it loses over half of its value, and it hasn't lost half of its value yet. So it's lost over half of its value before. Shit, it lost over 3/4 of its value one time, and it bounced back. So everybody's freaking out over nothing because this happens. It's like, just don't sell on the downstroke, because that's what I did. I could have been a millionaire twice if I hadn't a panic sold when it was dropping. Everybody's like, oh, it's crashing. China's banning it. They're gonna ban. Everybody's gonna ban crypto. It can never exist again. It doesn't matter if they ban the crypto. That's the whole point.
It can't. It exists now, and like. You can't, it's not, you're not going to just delete it, It
can't be regulated. Crypto, that's the whole point with decentralized cryptocurrency, and why blockchain is used by so many people now, is because once it's deployed and it casts a wide net, you can't stop it.
No.
You literally cannot stop it. It's like a freaking computer virus.
And this bullshit about, okay, so yeah, probably Elon. So somebody said here, Jason A, he says it's just all the Elon and Tesla people getting out because of the environment. That's such a bullshit, like, smoke screen. All the crypto miners in the world are not having the massive effect on, like, energy consumption as people would like to think. Like, there've been looks at this over the years, and like the banking industry in general, and look at the subsidies that they do for like coal and oil power generation. And like, I know part of it is like, oh, coal, like China uses a lot of coal for their power generation and things like that. Like, it's still not as much as like other industries. And so people are like trying to shit on these miners for it, when it's not nearly the effect that people are like making it out to be. So
also, like how nobody does an apples to apples comparison either. They're like, oh my God, all these resources are being wasted. It's killing the environment, everything. It's like, well, how does your bank work? How do wire transfers work? How do employees at banking systems get paid? Do they drive to work? Do they use electricity? Do they use resources? Do they have to eat more breakfast to go to their job? Yeah. It's like, if you factor it out, it's actually cheaper to run a crypto network to verify a ledger that cannot be manipulated. Whereas the banks now have to call in. They get busted all the time. They make mistakes all the time. They have to have organizations on top of organizations of government oversight to make sure that they function and they recover from these things. It's like, you don't need that with crypto. And the other thing is, Elon Musk is full of shit. I'm going to call him out on this one.
This was totally a scam.
Yeah,
he said this to drop the price so that 100%. They could buy more.
100%. And if you don't believe it, let me give you a little history lesson here, folks.
It has like $2.5 billion in Bitcoin.
Yeah,
and they sold like 300 something million or something of it to help boost their Tesla as the company sold the Bitcoin to boost their quarterly earnings report.
Yep.
It looks as like income because they sold, and now the drop, I guarantee we're going to find out that Tesla bought another billion worth of Bitcoin at some point, or it'll come out when people start looking at the chain. And because he did the same thing with Tesla stock. Oh, Tesla stock is selling too high, and then it crashes and they do a bunch of buybacks and stuff. Like, come on.
Elon's done it twice now. He's gotten spanked by the SEC, lost his role at the company, had to have his social media monitored as a condition of the resolution, had to pay millions of dollars in fees because of manipulating the Tesla stock. And now that he can't do that anymore because the SEC's up his ass, he's going after crypto because our Wall Street bets, right? They went after GameStop, they did that, and then they went over to crypto and they replicated the exact same thing with Doge. And Elon was like, I wonder if I can get on this. Elon is one of the top Doge. He's like the top fourth, I think the fourth largest Doge holder in the world. The only reason that he's shitting on Bitcoin right now is, like you said, to drop it, to buy it back, but also to drive people to Doge. Yeah. And the funny thing is, Doge is 10,000 million times more wasteful than Bitcoin is, if you want to talk dollar value to mining to verification. And you don't see him shitting on that. Like, every tweet's like Doge to the moon. So Elon doesn't give a shit about the environment. He doesn't. The whole that was totally just a play on people's emotions to get them to pull out of that, because he's still promoting Doge, which is just as, actually, it's more wasteful than BTC because it's unlimited coin production. There's literally trillions of coins like in circulation, and there's just more and more coins every day. And he owns most of those coins, which means most of the verifications that are happening on the network are him trading cryptocurrency between his own accounts to artificially increase volume on the network. So yeah, don't buy into that shit, guys.
It's in the best interests for miners to invest in renewable energy sources to better their profits. If I had my own solar panels or wind turbine out front, and that's what I was running all my crypto mining on, boom, zero impact whatsoever, because or outside of the creation of the turbine or the solar panels or whatever. But like, if I'm off the grid in a place that, like, here it's super clean, we use hydro and nuclear here in Washington, but say I'm in some place like, I don't know, fucking Pennsylvania or something, where they do a lot of coal or whatever, and I say, you know what, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put one of these little cool little turbine things in the river on my house, or little solar thingy, whatever. Now, like, does that not offset the potential? Like, it's in the best interest of miners to use the cheapest energy production possible, which tends to lean toward renewable energies, renewable sources, wind, solar, whatever. And so because that's a better profit. If the less you're spending on the electricity to power your mining machines, the better.
Yeah, and actually, I'd also like to remind people that what happens when Bitcoin crashes like this is that the difficulty also drops, which means more people come back into the mining game harder on the next round, which means the last thing you want to do to make Bitcoin more environmentally friendly is to drop the value and drop the difficulty, so everybody brings like 10 million more ASICs online and mines the shit out of it because it's more profitable.
Yeah.
So it's a self-balancing wheel. That's how all cryptos work. I mean, some use smart contracts and other things to add things to that wheel, but Bitcoin is like, it's self-balancing. It's like the value of the currency is based on the supply and the demand. If the supply goes up, then the supply goes down, it encourages the supply going up by making it easier to mine and make money faster. Right. So that's how it balances it on that. If demand goes down for the currency, then the currency drops in value, and then people start buying it up. And then by buying it up and bringing it back, it raises the cost of the currency again. Right. So it's like every single action that happens, if one of the three little pyramid angles falls off, the other two pick it up. And that's why I'm not worried that Bitcoin's going to stay down. I don't think it will. I think this is just an artificial speculative thing. People are freaking out and dumping off. Elon isn't the only one, though. He's definitely the guy that once a fire is started, he can just throw gasoline on it and push it the rest of the way. But there's a lot of factors why Bitcoin is down right now, right? This isn't the first time a country has claimed they were going to ban crypto. And let's see what does that mean? What does it mean when they ban crypto? It just means that companies aren't going to be able to publicly accept crypto to sell their products and services, which is a big deal. But at the same time, it doesn't stop people from using crypto. If you're in China, you can still send dude crypto and he can still mail you shit. You can still use crypto to buy it from a foreign site and have it shipped to you through import duties and stuff like that. There's always a million ways to still use it. That's the thing about crypto, right? Is it's everywhere. It's universal. No one country can put any kind of constraints on it beyond how it ties into their own economic system. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't tie into their economic system. Fuck their economic system. There's always a way to use the cryptocurrency to get what you want, right? If the country just banned, the American currency, for instance, which has happened, countries have done shit like that before. They just say, okay, you can't use US dollars anymore. And some dude like converted all of his money into US dollars. He's like, oh shit, he'll still find somebody that will take those US dollars. He'll still be able to use those US dollars externally. He'll still be able to exchange those US dollars to somebody who knows how to get the value out of them somewhere else. So there's always going to be a way for this currency to be moved around and be valuable. So I don't get spooked by stuff like that. I really don't.
Nah.
And as far as exchanges, there's exchanges all around the world. If China shuts down other exchanges, all that traffic's just going to pour over to the other exchanges in other countries.
Yeah.
And then you might be like, well, what if every country bans it? Well, then it goes on the dark web, right? It's like, you're not going to stop it.
It's like the US dollar. Like there's a reason why like cash still exists, like physical cash money, is because like they need more difficult tracking ways, or ways to transact that are more difficult to track.
Yeah.
Like, and so it doesn't matter. Like eventually at some point we'll get to a point. I honestly look forward to the future, and it's probably going to be Bitcoin, where we have this sort of credits, like the science fiction credits. And if you wanted to do some sort of untraceable or less or whatever, more difficult tracking transactions, then you'll have like these anonymous crypto wallets, which will be on like little USB sticks, little credit sticks, and they're tied to unnamed random numbered accounts in like the Cayman Islands or whatever, that don't track back to anybody, any real person. Because like that's how cash works. That's how they move and hide money as it is right now. So like,
well, so the drug cartel, they literally take like dollar bills, like US dollar bills, and put them on pallets and wrap them in plastic and physically move tens of thousands of pounds of physical money, because the government can't do anything about it. Like it's you're literally physically transacting it. And the thing is cryptocurrency is the digital equivalent of that, because any governing body could grab even the drug cartel, right? They could get busted, they could lose a shipment, that money could be claimed. You can't do that with crypto. With crypto, if you have your own wallet and you're storing your own private keys, they could take down 15 countries, 1 billion computers, and there still is going to be a network of computers that are maintaining and replicating that blockchain. So I would argue that Bitcoin is not only secure, it's more secure than physical money. Mm-hmm. Like it's more secure than physically having money in your hand, because you can walk outside, somebody could like bang you over the head and take your wallet. It's like your crypto is that private key. Now they could also like, force you at gunpoint to go into your house and give you the private key out of your safe or whatever. So I would say in that respect, it's kind of on par. But my point being is you don't have to physically carry the cash with you. It would be the equivalent of you never having cash on you, and anybody that took your wallet would have to actually physically drive you to your house and hope the cops don't show up and no alarms get tripped and that they get the access to that key, and then they would have your money. But it's so many more steps than simply just taking your money away from you, because it's always on your person. Yeah.
Drebin 2293 asks, but aren't cryptos a lot more easily traced? I think it's more the trend. So you could, if I understand it correctly, the transactions, yes, are all traceable, because that's like the whole point, right? The ledger, that's what everybody's doing, is verifying transactions on the ledger.
Correct.
But if you created a wallet anonymously, which I know that there must be ways to do so that don't all tie back to a person or entity. There
is. It wouldn't work unless there was.
You would be able to trace it to its beginning point, yes, but that beginning point could be an anonymous bank account in the Cayman Islands or something that doesn't go to any real person, right?
Yeah. So like
the same way that they launder fiat currency, the way they launder money.
Yeah.
Yes, you could still track those transactions. It's difficult even now, and it will eventually lead to somewhere, but that somewhere doesn't always lead to a person or an entity that can be held responsible.
Yeah. So the way that you would have an anonymous wallet in crypto is never buy cryptocurrency. So never purchase it with any other denomination. You just mine it. So if you want some cryptocurrency, you mine it, right? And then if you want to mine a lesser currency, sell it to somebody else for the currency that you want, but never actually buy currency, because the second that you buy currency and you fund it through some institution to get it to you, like you actually pay somebody for it, that starts a paper trail, because they're going to see that currency go from that Bitcoin go from them to you, and whatever wallet you have, every transaction out of it. If they can get that guy to talk, they have your information.
Even then, like I said, you could have an anonymous bank account, a numbered account somewhere that doesn't necessarily tie back to a person, because
I didn't know you could do that.
There are institutions. The Swiss are known for this. There are banking institutions that will keep your identity incredibly secret, or they don't necessarily require, like, a person, of course, has to set up the account, but that person isn't identified on the account. Like these anonymous numbered accounts, right?
Yeah.
Or a corporate entity that, again, doesn't always have to report to the people behind the corporate entity, is the one doing the transactions. They hunt down and eventually find that, cryptocrime.com are the guys doing all these horrible transactions. But then who owns the company? Well, nobody. Or the company dissolves and all the paperwork gets burnt up or whatever and just disappears. Like, that happens all the time with drug money. Like,
I actually just thought of a way to do this. It's like super simple. And I just remembered that this is exactly what people do, and why a lot of Indian scammers do this. Gift cards.
Sure.
Gift cards. There's a million exchanges online where you can literally exchange your Walmart gift card, your Subway gift card, your Kmart gift card, whatever, right? You can exchange your gift cards for a percentage monetary value, like 80%, in cryptocurrency. So then what you'd do is you'd create an anonymous wallet. You'd go to one of those sites. You take one of your gift cards you bought off Craigslist or whatever from somebody else that's linked to their credit card and to their wallet, right, that they funded it with. And you take that and you buy your cryptocurrency with it. And then you can just burn these gift cards. And now, granted, it's going to cost you a little more. There's a laundering fee, right? You're going to be paying the $10 or $20 on your gift card to them to keep. But that would allow you to actually buy cryptocurrency with literally no trail back to you, or no realistic trail back to you. I mean, they could still, they could still, in theory, figure out like who bought that gift card originally, and then go, twist their fingers and be like, who did you sell this to or whatever. But the cool thing about that is, like, you could be anonymous on the internet, and they could send you that gift card number, right, without ever knowing who you are. So even if a cop found him, like, who did you sell this to? I don't know, some guy on Facebook. I dumped it in Messenger. I don't have any fucking clue who this guy is.
Some random email address.
So all they would know is that
anymore.
So all they would know, if they did all the research, and this would be a lot of money and effort and forensics, but all they would know at that point is that those gift cards from those people funded that wallet, but they still wouldn't know who owned that wallet and who was operating that wallet. And as long as every good and service that you buy is not shipped directly to you, or doesn't have a physical tie to you, or an account that has information tied to you, it would remain anonymous. So, but just remember, the one thing about crypto, and this is the thing, this is why I don't recommend people even just use it for anything nefarious either, is because all it takes you is fucking up once. Yep. And if one single transaction from that wallet in its entire history of existence ever goes to something that personally identifies you, they can reverse engineer that back through every single transaction to the genesis of that wallet. And so that's where you got to be careful. It's the same thing with like VPNs and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, they're only as secure as you are. If you connect to a VPN and then you go log into your Gmail account, now they have that IP address linked to your Gmail account. They know your physical IP address when you were connected to your ISP. And now they can go during that time window that they saw you do that and figure out everything you were doing from the original IP, even if you were going through the VPN. So VPNs even aren't 100% secure unless you really, really know what you're doing. Same thing with Tor.
Yep.
So be safe, people. Just don't do a bunch of illegal shit. It's that simple. or if you do illegal shit, do illegal shit that like nobody fucking cares about. Like if you go watch a movie or listen to a song online or something, as long as you're not the guy distributing like millions of copies of it that the DMCA is going to come after you, you're probably not going to have like the black helicopter show up at your house. Right. But yeah, if you're trying to like buy and sell drugs online, yeah, it's like you eventually will get a visit from the DEA. It's just a matter of time. So don't do it. Get your drugs where normal people get their drugs, the pharmacy. Yeah. Go to your doctor and pay him $80 in a lab coat to write you a script. And then it's okay for you to have, and cops can even pull you over and shit. And you can just hand them the bottle and they'll be like, all right, sir, be on your way. I love our system.
Dude.
So fucking stupid. The only difference between a drug dealer and me is my name's on the bottle. That's literally it. And I have an insurance card.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
You're authorized to have it.
Mm-hmm. like the medical marijuana thing back in the day, right? I think now because it's legal, it doesn't really matter, but where we're at. But yeah, like back in the day, it's like, yeah, if you had a was it medical marijuana card or whatever, you got pulled over by the police and they found like a certain amount on you or whatever, they'd be like, no, you go on your way. You're good. Yeah. Like, here's your ticket for speeding 10 over, leave. But if you didn't have that card and you had the same amount on you, now you're felony possession and trafficking and go to jail for like 10 or 25 years. So it's just so bizarre, man. It's so bizarre. You could literally be thrashed on alcohol behind the wheel, like open the car, vomit on the shoes of the officer, fail the field sobriety test, and you like get your license taken away for like a year, pay like, I don't know, $50,000 in legal fees or whatever. I don't know what it is for a DUI. And then you get your license back. But something that's like wholly less damaging, you would go to jail for like 20 or 25 years, unless you had the card. Now imagine if it was the other way around. What if there was like a medical alcohol card? Like you had like fetal alcohol syndrome or something, and you needed that alcohol. Like, and there was an alcohol card and the cop pulls you over and he's like, dude, you're blowing like a 4.2. Oh, I got my card. I got my card. Okay, sir, here's your alcohol card. I got my medical alcohol card here. You got to let me go, officer. Okay, sir. Okay, here's your ticket for 10 over. I'm going to give you a warning this time. Just think about how stupid that sounds. And then you apply it, and it's like that's the kind of shit that I don't understand about our legal system. Is there's all these apples to apples comparisons where it's like something that's completely negligent changes the whole outcome of the scenario, or negligible. Like, for instance, we were just talking about this on Twitch the other day. On my stream yesterday, we were talking about emissions. So there's there's no emissions. Hobbs told me that apparently a couple of years ago they canceled emissions here in Washington State. So now you don't have to go get your car smogged every couple of years or whatever like you used to. Okay. But I live in an area where that's not required. It used to be by county, and I live in a county that does that. So I can have a straight shot exhaust out the back of my car, drive down the middle of Bellevue and Seattle, rolling coal, blowing smoke out of my stack and everything. And if the cops pull me over, I'm like, I don't live in your county. Okay, sir, carry on. It's like you just walk away. But if you live there, you get a big ticket and your car gets impounded, right? Because you have to pass smog in that area. So the only difference is where I live. We're both driving in the same area. The only difference is I live in an area where that law is not enforced, and that carries over into the next area. Now take it one step further. If you go to get your car smogged, this is back in the day, it doesn't apply now here in Washington, but you'd go get your car smogged. If your car failed smog, you could pay like I think it was like a $700 fee, and they'd waive it. You'd get an exemption. So you basically pay $700. They give you an exemption that says, yes, your car failed smog and your car is technically illegal and killing the environment, but we're going to charge you $700 and give you an exemption so that if the police pull you over or whatever, you can show them the exemption and you won't get a ticket for your shitty exhaust or whatever. But it's like, so now people that have money can pay. And the only difference between the guy that gets pulled over who has the Honda Civic with the exhaust and the guy that pulls over has the exemption is one gets his car impounded and goes to jail because he didn't grease the wheels. He didn't pay the $700 to get the exemption card. But the dude that has the exemption card, the cop's just like, oh, carry on. We see that you paid your $700 taxes to be able to destroy the environment. Carry on, sir. There's so many weird like double standards in our society. It's so stupid, man. Hey, Jeffrey Tripp. Thank you for the $2 super chat. He said, we need drug reform. Don't just arrest the person. And that's the problem is most people in jail are for like drug related crimes and minor possession. Yeah.
It's like possession usually. It's not so even
stupid. Yeah, it's not distribution, right? It's just people buying it.
Yeah.
We really got to do something about our system.
There's plenty of examples of where they'll decriminalize, which is not the same as making it legal. Okay, there's a weird in between where, so the way the rules work, it has to be explicitly stated that what you're doing is against the law, or explicitly stated that it is okay. Like at least when as far as it comes to like drug crimes, at least. So like, they're not saying like it's totally cool in the sense of like, oh, you can just run down to Safeway and buy fucking Coke, but they're also not going to like send you to jail for like having some on you, the way that they did in Oregon, right? And now, so if you're caught in possession, you're more likely to end up in rehab than jail.
Yeah, and I thought that there's also a set of, I'm not sure what it's called, but I watch some of these auditing channels on YouTube where they're auditing the police, and apparently, like in some states, there's even laws that say that they can't charge you for anything other than what they pulled you over for.
Super.
So
That'd be
like
nice.
if they
But
pull
they'll
you
do that
over
shit
for like a
anyway.
headlight out or whatever, unless it's like something really, really bad. Like obviously they pull over and you got a bunch of guns on the back seat or something, and guns are illegal in that state. Maybe they do something about it. But for this, it's like if they pull you over and they find you in possession of like a small amount of drugs, like it doesn't meet the requirement of you being like a felony distributor. It's like they don't even charge you for that. They're just like we pulled you over for speeding. Here's your thing. You're not intoxicated. You passed your field sobriety test or whatever. You're on your way. And not all states do that. Like, but there are a lot of states where they can't pull you over for anything but what they did, because otherwise you end up having cops that just like, oh, you had a broken tail light, and then they search your car.
Right.
And so there's a lot of places that's how they combat it, is basically saying that the officer I was watching this one lady, she got pulled over for not having her seatbelt on. And so he pulls her over and he's like, oh, I pulled you over for not having your seatbelt on or whatever like that. And she's like, oh, well, I do have my seatbelt on though. Look, you just couldn't see it. It was like below the door. See, my seatbelt is on or whatever. And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna need you to step out of the vehicle. And she's like, nope. She's like rolling the camera. She's like, no, I'm not stepping out of the vehicle. He's like, I have suspicion, that I need to search your vehicle or whatever. She's like, no, you're not searching my vehicle. And he calls another guy. Another guy comes over. He's like, what the fuck are you doing harassing the citizen? Like the officer watching comes over, is like, what are you doing? You like pulled her over for not having a seatbelt on. Now you're trying to remove her from the car and like search her vehicle. Like, what the fuck? For what reason? Oh, I have suspicion that she's acting suspicious, so there must be something in the car. And he's like, bullshit. That's not how this works. Yeah. He's like, you went to the same cop school as me, dude. He's like, you pulled her over for not having a seatbelt on. She showed you she had her seatbelt on. You don't have anything that can prove that she doesn't. Let her fucking go on her way. And then she's like, okay, thank you, officer, too, for showing up and stopping this dipshit, But stuff like that happens all the time, right? It's same thing with house raids, right? If they come into your house looking for stuff, there's a lot of states where they will just use everything that they find. They'll just come into your house on a weird technicality and then search everything and turn the whole place over and be like, oh, well, we found 5 things. We found a copied CD from 20 years ago, of Michael Jackson. We're going to throw that on there too. It's like they're just fishing, right?
Right. Which, though, even with like potential probable cause, I feel like it would be very difficult to use that as evidence against you. Yeah. If they have a warrant, they go beyond the scope of that warrant, that is 100% inadmissible. Yep. So like if they have a warrant to come into your house and like search your computer for whatever, child porn, and you have a bag of coke under your bed, they're not allowed to search under your bed. They are there to search your computer.
And if they do and find it, you in court can say, they weren't supposed to be searching there. Like they had a warrant for a very specific thing.
Was it Fourth Amendment? I think it's illegal search and seizure. They're not allowed to go beyond the scope of their probable cause and warrant and stuff like that. But they'll do that shit just to scare you and admit to stuff and then use that as evidence against you. And because like if you say, oh, that's not my coke, blah blah blah, they can use that kind of stuff to that kind of thing.
Drebin said copy CDs aren't something that they could prosecute you for, though. As long as you don't distribute it, it's not criminally enforceable. Last I checked, actually, it is. Oh. It's just not worth going after.
Right.
It's a rabbit hole that usually ends badly. And the other thing too that they found out, and this was in the 90s where this was really bad. They started going after individuals just to make an example out of them that were downloading like MP3s on LimeWire and shit. And it ended up being like kids that were like 12 and 13 years old. And so they'd go and prosecute these kids and be like, you caused us $250 million in damages. And every single case that they prosecuted the kid, they dropped the case and then they countersued them in civil court for like harassment of a minor, mental, and they won. They settled out of court for tens of millions of dollars. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bunch of that stuff where they tried to like threaten them to settle out of court. Oh, you owe us $1,200 per song and all this stuff.
Per download.
To try and to like scare them into paying, because like if you pay, it was messed up. But there was a whole slew of that stuff.
Yeah, so now DMCA, what they do now, like from what I've seen, is they just send a notification to your ISP saying, oh, we detected somebody downloading this movie or this song, and then they just send you a scary email that's like, if you keep doing this, we're going to turn your internet off. Like, you need to stop doing this. And everybody gets like millions of them. Like I know people that have literally gotten like 100 of those because they don't check their ISP email address. They'll log into it and there'll be like 500 fucking notifications for this thing happening. And they never turned off their thing and never called them. It's just they're required by law to forward that on to the user when they get the audit. But it's an automated system. It's not physically some person sending the ISP mail. So it's just a canned response and they forward it on to the user. And it's funny when you see that because you're like, it's designed, it's a scare tactic. That's all it is. It's just a scare tactic. And there was one time where they did act on it like years and years and years ago. I get a call from my ISP because my modem was out. And I called him and they're like, oh, our tech support guy wants to talk to you. And I'm like, okay, that's odd. Like, that's never happened before. And so he calls me back like 10 minutes later. He's like, oh yeah, we detected that you were downloading something called like a B movie off of LimeWire or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, it couldn't have been me, bro. It must have been my neighbor or something. You know, it's like, do you have a Wi-Fi network? I'm like, yep, I don't put a password on that shit. It takes too long to type it in. Okay, well, you need to put a password on your router if we're going to turn your internet back on or whatever. And I was like, yeah. And then like a year later, it happened again and they turned it off. And they charged me a $20 reactivation fee. And this is like 10 or 12 years ago. Since then, nothing. Big old fat nothing burger. Like you just get a mail every once in a while. It's like, just turn on the goddamn VPN. You're fine.
Right.
But yeah, don't distribute it though, because they go after the distributors.
That tends to be
that's why you shouldn't do peer-to-peer networking for like anything where you're also uploading and contributing to the network, because now that's what they're going to get you for. Is if you got a lot of bandwidth and you got 100 people connecting to you a second downloading that movie, those are the ones they want to get. And just be fair warning, if you are using torrents, you are serving as you're receiving. So just keep that in mind. You are technically a distributor even when you're just streaming a torrent.
Well,
so
yeah, if you're uploading at all.
Yep. So for peer, yeah, exactly. And if you disable upload, most peers won't even send you at any speed that's usable. So keep that in mind. The other thing is with like networks like Tor and stuff like that, you do have other people that are funneling traffic through your computer and through your IP address while you're using the Tor network. So when you're on Tor and you're like, tee, look, I'm doing all these things, your ISP's like, tee, look, somebody else is coming the other way and going through your IP back out to the network. It is technically encrypted. Nobody's going to really give a flying fuck, but just know that. Like, when you use Tor, other people are connecting to whatever shit you don't know about through your computer while you're using their computers to connect to the network. That's how the Tor network is assembled. Now, you can go in and disable a thing, I believe, that says use the Tor network without offering that. But then again, just like with the torrents, it slows things down like dramatically. So I just recommend VPNs. VPNs are good. VPNs are a good, solid. Just fire that up, get an IP address somewhere else, get around your geofence, do your thing, and not have to fucking worry about it. Just make sure that you get a VPN that's not hubbed in the United States of America, because that's kind of pointless having a VPN when it's homed here within the jurisdiction of the United States government. It's like go get yourself something in like Panama or Switzerland or some country that has like no extradition with the United States, and make sure that it's headed there. And then that's a VPN that's going to be safe from warrants and liens and all that shit that governments like to do. Or I have another suggestion: just don't do illegal shit on the internet, and you'll be fine.
Where's the fun in that?
I mean, I know. The funny thing is like everything's illegal.
A wet blanket, Jerry.
Yeah, I know. I've done like 12 illegal things just during this stream alone because the laws are so fucked. That's the other thing is like we have so many laws. It's like nobody even knows what all the laws are. Like I went to the website for the RCWs, the Washington state laws, and there's like fucking 2 billion of them. Like you just start reading through them, and it's like weird laws that don't make sense, things you've never heard of before. Like in verbiage that makes no sense. It's like, I can't imagine that there's a judge. I don't think there's a single judge on this entire planet that knows the entirety of the law. I think every single judge even has to like go back and like go to RCWs and flip down and figure shit out just because it's so vast. It's like, and they never go back and refine it and get rid of a bunch of the laws and like clean it up. They just keep adding.
It's like how live streaming gameplay, I think outside of a few instances where it's like, and I'm sure EULAs may have changed for some of this stuff, but technically that's an illegal broadcast of copyrighted material. Like, you're technically not supposed to be doing that to you're just like you're not supposed to do that with movies and stuff. The same applies to video games. But they've like just kind of, that's why Nintendo's so hardcore about like YouTube videos, gameplay and whatnot. It's like, because technically you're not supposed to do that without permission. Yeah. And I think a lot of developers or whatever have included that into the EULA now, where like it's okay out within certain parameters or whatever. But like technically I'm sure there are still plenty of instances where that is technically illegal, or at least DMCA-able. And it's just,
yeah, I see some talk in chat. Like somebody was like, Gimpy was like, just if they want to search any of your stuff, just refuse. I actually do agree with that. Like, you should never agree to a search. You should never agree to a seizure. Nothing. But here's the thing: remain respectful.
Yes.
And if they choose to forcefully do it anyways, then that's that's literally under you stating that you did not want them to do that. You put the responsibility on them, because that way, if they search your thing and they don't find anything, even if they're not going to find anything, even if it's say no. Because they don't need to be, because the thing is they're searching your shit because they don't have anything to hold you on right there, and they're trying to widen the gate, right? So
Yep.
you say no, and if they choose to do it anyways, you're not going to stop them. You're not going to stop them, but you will be on record though, and that's what's important is you comply. You don't make anything easy. You don't make anything easy. Be respectful, but you don't make anything easy. You don't have to volunteer information. You don't have to let them search your shit. Any First Amendment auditor will tell you this is a good course of action, but don't resist. If they want to handcuff you, let them handcuff you. If they want to put you in the back of the car, let them put you in the back of the car. Remain respectful, remain polite, but just do not give them anything, because they know because at that point they're fishing hard and they're using like a fear tactic. And the thing is, if they fuck up and search your shit and they don't find nothing, and they tear your shit apart, you go to court and they're going to be having a hefty payday on their hands if they did not have the right cause and they were trying to get you to give them, because if you give them the right, then they have no responsibility. Yeah. If you say, go ahead and search my car, and they search your car and they find, some shit like it's a used car you bought 10 years ago and they find like a half smoked joint or something in the backseat under the carpet that's 10 years old. Now they got something on you. Yeah. And if they search the car, but if you don't give them permission and they search that car, and they go through there and they find that it's unrelated to the offense that they pulled you over from, and there's probable cause that wasn't what they were trying to stop you for or look for, then you've got a lot more you can do in court. So it's always better to just stay silent.
It's tough. Yeah. Invoke and refuse to waive my Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. Do not ask me any questions without a lawyer present. Am I being detained? Am I under arrest?
Yep. And the biggest thing is be respectful and do not resist. Yep. That's the biggest thing where I see the most mistakes happen with law enforcement is like, you can answer their questions. You can say, no, you don't want to tell them anything. They can put you in the back seat of their car. They can sit you on the side of the road. You can refuse only so much. But if you start actively resisting them and using force against them, and you start trying to impede them, in their legal right to say stop you for like pulling you over, right? But maybe not like ripping your whole car apart. If you should know your rights in that situation and record the whole thing. That's the other thing that it's been helping people so much, is like the second you're pulled over, it's like have a shortcut on your phone. For me, it's like, I don't want to say it right now because I got in there, but I say something to my phone. I say, hey Siri, followed by 2 more words. And it basically turns off the screen, starts recording audio and video. And that's and then you just put it in your cup holder. You have it on your dashboard and the screen's off, so they don't see anything. And it records video of the whole thing. And if the police officer asks you, like, are you recording this? Absolutely. Say yes. Say yes. It's my legal right to record this, because and if they tell you to turn your shit off,
no,
that's a big red flag that's going to kill them in the end. But yeah, just don't resist. Like if they ask you to get out of the vehicle, if they're going to get you out of the vehicle,
why?
Like you can tell them like why. Yeah, you can say that. But I'm saying if you refuse them and they still pushing it and escalate it to the next level, don't show a ton of physical resistance, because that's what they're looking for. They're trying to make it look like you're super unruly and everything, so they can do everything. But you can literally say, like, if they say step out of the vehicle, ask them why. If they won't tell you why to step out of the vehicle, then step out of the vehicle, but still ask them why. If they ask to search the vehicle, say no, and they search it anyways, just keep asking them why. And just make sure that you have as much of it recorded as humanly possible, or that some bystander or something is also recording it, and keep a track of everything that's going on so you can collect that data in discovery later. Oh, wow. Siri was listening to like the last 5 paragraphs of what I just said there, because I said that. So, but here's the thing is like, police are going to try to do anything that they want to do in most cases. But the only thing that's going to stop them is them knowing that they could potentially lose their job, or they could potentially have criminal liability themselves. So as long as you create a situation where they're aware that those things can happen, like they're being observed, there's video being captured, that greatly improves your odds in the encounter. If they know that there's no recording and there's no device or anything like that, oh my God, completely different encounter depending on the police officer. But I always comply. That's my thing. I always comply. Like the officer walks up and say, license, registration, here you go, buddy. Why did you pull me over? If he doesn't even want to tell me, so be it. If he wants to ask me questions, do you know why I pulled you over? No, I don't. No, I don't, sir. Could you tell me? Sometimes they won't even tell you. Like you literally get the ticket, and that's when you find out.
And they're trained to trick you into answering certain questions. Like, do you know how fast you were going?
Yeah.
That's a trick, right? It's because if you say yes, you've just admitted to knowing that you were speeding, right? So you get pulled over for speeding. Do you know how fast you're going? Yes. If you say no, then that implies you were not in control or paying attention to the vehicle, and they can get you for that.
There's lots of tricks.
You don't have to answer. You don't have to answer any questions when you're pulled over. Depending on where you're at, look this up. There are rules for traffic stops that are explicitly spelled out in your state, county, whatever. Like here in Washington, you have to provide proof of license, registration, proof of insurance. That's all. I don't have to talk to the cop at all. I don't have to answer any of their questions. I don't have to roll my window down all the way. I don't have to do any of that stuff. I have to provide license, registration, proof of insurance.
Yep.
I invoke and refuse to waive my Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. Do not ask me any questions without a lawyer present. And then remain silent. If you do say anything, you explicitly re-invoke your Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. If you do say anything afterwards, because there's an implicit what's the word? Waive. If you speak at all, that implies that you are waiving your right to remain silent.
Yeah.
And so you have to say it, you have to re-invoke it if you say anything every time.
Yeah, I've actually seen some really good First Amendment auditor videos where the person just repeats that over and over again. He said, "Why do you pull me over?" And if he said no, he's like, "Well, I refuse to answer any of your questions. I refused." And the officer will be like, "You have to give this to me." And
Right.
He'll be like, "No, I don't, under this law," because the one he pulled over was actually a lawyer. That's what made this video so funny. Is the lawyer's like, "No, you can go look it up right now under this law, blah, blah, blah. It states that I do not have to identify myself to you. You're pulling me over reasonable suspicion of something that you don't know for a fact has occurred." And the officer's just like, "What do I do? Like, what do I do?" And he just keeps asking him over and over and over again. After a while, he just goes and calls another officer. The other officer shows up. Another officer looks up the law in the book or whatever and says, "Yeah, no, he's actually right. Okay, sir, you have a nice day." And he's like, "All right, bye," and just drives off. I was like, wow, dude.
There's a lot of back and forth in the chat right now. Yes, there are going to be times where the cops do shit that is wildly illegal. You're going to have lawyers who are buddies with judges and shit like that. Yes.
Yeah. And you can't stop them. That's the thing, is don't think you can stop them.
That's unfortunate, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't try. That doesn't mean you shouldn't stand up for yourself.
Yeah, like I said, if they still tell you to get out of the vehicle and they're still going to search your vehicle, even though you've refused, let them. But you have that now on record. So when you go to court, that gives you a lot of leeway, which you don't if you just are like, "Yeah, please go ahead and search the vehicle," because they'll do shit like this. And this has happened to me before too, where they'll pull over and they'll be like, "Yeah, you were going a little bit fast back there." Like, and I was like, "Well, sir, I was unaware. I was moving with traffic." And and when the officer comes up, I have all my information. I give it to him. And I've only gotten, I think, 2 or 3 tickets out of being pulled over like 20 plus times like in my life. Because as long as you're polite to them, they're usually fairly reasonable. But every once in a while, you'll get the asshole cop that walks up. He's like, "Oh, I got you going pretty fast back there." And I'd be like, well, how fast was I going, officer? You were going fast. I got you doing like 15 over or whatever. And be like, "What device did you use to measure my speed?" "Oh, I was behind your car," where they call you, like drafting you or whatever like that. And it was like, "No, I was looking at my rearview mirror. You weren't behind me, sir." Yeah. Well, you were going past it, but then what they do is they start getting frustrated, like when you're not, because they're trying to get you to admit to it and be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, officer, I was speeding. Please, can I just get a warning this time?" And sometimes that works too. But here's the thing: this guy was not going to give me a warning. It was clear from the way he was interacting with me. He wanted me just to admit to it, and I was like, "No, I would not admit to it." And then he, even at the end, went so far, and I wish I had this recorded. He went so far to say, and says, "You know what? I could work with you." He goes, "I could work with you." He's like, if you would just admit that you were going fast, he's like, "I could let you off with a warning." Didn't say he would. He said, "I could let you off with a warning. I could let you go this time, but you're making it difficult, sir." And I was like, and I just looked at him. I was like, I was moving with traffic. Yeah. I was like, "If you have to write me a ticket, write me a ticket." He ended up not writing me a ticket though. That was the interesting thing about it, is in the end, after all that, he ended up letting me off with a warning. But I couldn't believe that, like, at the end, he's like, "Come on, dude, you got to work with me. You got to admit your guilt so that I can let you go with a warning." It's like, no, you can let me go with a warning without me admitting my guilt. Like, there's only one reason you're trying to get me to admit my guilt, so that that I won't be able to get discovery and show up in court and fight it. Because if they have you on record saying that you committed the crime, you're not going to be able to go to court and be like, "Oh, I didn't commit the crime." But you can, because you can check the box on the ticket and say, "I'm going to go to court and fight this." And if their discovery that you requested shows that at no point you confirmed that you were guilty, and the measuring device or measuring method they use is flawed, which it usually is like 90% of the time because they're too lazy to calibrate the radar and shit. But anyways, be respectful. That's the biggest takeaway that I'd say from this conversation, is be respectful, know your rights, know your local laws. And if a police officer is going to be overly aggressive and overstep his boundaries, don't stop him. Just make sure that he knows it's under protest.
Yeah,
that's the biggest thing. Like, no, you're not. I do not consent to you searching my car. Well, okay, well, they're going to lock you in their car and search your car anyway. Well, good, let them. There's nothing you can do about it, and now you can go to court. And they did that. They did that illegally if they did not have the proper what do they call it? Like
probable cause
to search that vehicle, and they just chose to do it on a fucking hunch. That's not good enough, and you could get that thrown out.
And look, yes, because this conversation is continuing. Yes, there are going to be times where the rules are broken, where the cops do shit that they're not supposed to do, where you're going to get fucked over. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't at least try to stand up for yourself at every opportunity that you can. Like, yeah, okay, you didn't have a dash cam. They confiscated your cell phone. You can't record them if you don't have your cell phone. I wasn't doing anything. They punched me as soon as they come to the window. Whatever. Like, yes, there are going to be times where shit doesn't go right, where they're going to do a bunch of shit that's illegal or whatever. But like, that doesn't mean you should just roll over and just accept the authoritative like bullshit just because this one time it didn't work out. Like,
and just keep in mind, every single person that a police officer can illegally push around, that they're going to keep doing it. And it's going to keep getting worse. The police need to know that they're being audited. They need to know that they're being watched. They need to know that they're being recorded so that they will do their job properly and by the book. And again, I'm not saying that you're not going to get the cop that pulls up and says, "Sir, why did you pull me over?" And he's like, "Why do you think I pulled you over?" And it's like, "Sir, why did you pull me over?" And he like grabs you and rips you through the window and starts punching you in the face and maces you. But unfortunately, in that situation, like, what the fuck are you going to do? Like if you already got a bad cop who's basically a serial killer, you should probably call 911 and just step on the fucking gas and take your chances. Like, if the guy's trying to murder you, for pulling you over for speeding, it's like that is the minority account, right? That's like that, but it doesn't mean that he's not going to beat the shit out of you if you just get out of the car too, or you don't ask him any questions. Like, if you have a cop like that, he's going to do whatever he feels like because he's being driven by emotion, not by his job. Yeah. But record as much as you can. That's the big thing, is document and record as much as you can. The second that you get the ticket, request discovery within 24 hours. That's your legal right.
I should have done for my speeding ticket.
You should have.
I would have fought. I feel like I could have fought it better. But
yeah, no. So here's what I do. And again, it doesn't mean you win them all. Like, and the funny thing is, the 2 tickets that I got that I ended up having to pay, one of them was completely false. Like, I was falsely accused of the crime. I literally wasn't the same vehicle, wasn't the same license plate, and I wasn't even in the area they wrote the ticket for. So it was just a total fucking fluke. But I got one of those judges that literally looked at me and said, "Sorry, I have to believe the dude that's got 20 years on the force over you when push comes to shove." And I didn't have a recording of the encounter. I had his document that I requested discovery, which was something he wrote days later. You could tell it wasn't written on the day of the count because it included the wrong car, the wrong license plate. His description of the driver was all wrong. And he literally justified that by standing on the stand. And he's like, "Oh, we pull over so many people, Judge. Sometimes these things get mixed up." And he's like, "Okay, well, but then the officer was like, "I remember this happened 3 months ago. I remember this like it was yesterday. And that man did do exactly what I said." And the judge is like, "Sorry, he's got 20 years on the force, so I have to go with him." And I'm like, so you're basically saying you have to believe him because he's got 20 years on the force, but you keep believing him. So that's why he's so trustworthy, is because you keep believing him. You've never actually went and like looked into it. You've never required it. So you will run across those situations where you have a judge like that. But I could have gotten out of that ticket. All I had to do was hire one of the crooked attorneys that's in bed with the judge, like Jeannie Mucklestone or whatever, and I would have walked away from that. But I was stubborn. But I still got discovery. Discovery is a good thing to request. That way you have everything that the officer has, what the officer document. Every time an officer pulls you over, they have to document the stop. So they write in their little notebook, and if they think that you're going to call them into court, they will write a lot more in discovery than they will if they think you're just going to pay the ticket. Yeah. So another tactic is if they're going to write you the ticket, like, don't fight them on it or anything. Just like when they're writing you the ticket, be like, "Okay, okay, thank you, officer. Have a nice day, officer." Like, don't give them any reason to believe that you're going to fight it in court, because if you do, they'll sit there and just write like a small novel in their book for discovery in the court case. Yeah. But if you make them think that you're just going to pay the ticket, like, "Okay, I understand, officer, I'm going to pay it." And then you send it in and you fight it at the courthouse, and they show up, their discovery notes are like, "Pulled over somebody exceeding speed 12 miles an hour on road." That's it. End stop. Yeah. And that gives you a lot more leeway.
Like my speeding ticket, I could tell that I should have filed discovery so I could have read the whole report myself. The judge read the cop's report, for the record or whatever. But I wish I had it, because there were a couple points in there where I would have liked to have poked at, and so I should have. But one of the things I've done in the past, I got pulled over while driving my Scoot. I had a 50cc scooter, and they originally pulled me over on suspicion of DUI, which super weird. Like, okay, I'm going to be drunk driving my little scooter, but okay. And they claimed that I was doing like 40 in a 35, which I mean, it's too late now. This is all gone now. So, but I probably was. Technically, the scoot should be limited to 30 because otherwise I need to register it as a motorcycle, blah, blah, blah. And so they had paced me doing over 35. And so they got me, well, turns out I was on a suspended license as well for some other things, but that's besides the point. So they got me for driving on a suspended license, tried to get me for speeding, but they didn't give me a ticket for speeding. They got me a ticket for driving too close. And so I get the report. It talks about how I'm speeding or blah blah blah, whatever, this and that. But they never mentioned at what point I would have been driving too close. And so I fought that one in court. I fought the whole thing, of course, but the driving too close, I'm talking to the judge. I'm like, look, the only point where I could have even been driving too close would have been when we were crossing this intersection. But what he doesn't say, and he had mentioned that my feet were down at one point while I was driving, like not on the baseboard where you're supposed to put your feet. And I explained, I'm like, what the cop doesn't explain here is that we were crawling across this intersection because he's got his lights on. He's pulling somebody over. There's an SUV ahead of me who's doing like 5 miles an hour across this intersection to get into the gas station parking lot. I can't balance this thing going that slow. I had to put my feet down. And so at that point, I was probably a little close to the SUV ahead of me because we're both going to the gas station parking lot. And she's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. Do you have your motorcycle endorsement? I go, no, but that's part of why I have this scoot is because I want to, practice and stuff and know what I'm doing before I get my endorsement. She threw that out and it was just like, come on. It was dumb.
Yeah, I mean, each state has like different laws for like motorized vehicles, like electric vehicles now, because they're getting so fast. Now they have an ordinance here that say like you can't be over, 500 watts or 20 miles an hour. But here's the problem with that is like I live in a hilly area. When you go down hills, you're doing like 30, 35, 40 miles an hour because you're going downhill. And so they can technically pull you over and ticket you if they get you on radar going faster than 20 miles an hour on an electric device, yet you could literally coast down the hill at 40 miles an hour on a regular bicycle. So, but luckily, like the cops around here, obviously they know that and they're not harassing people for like coasting down the hills too fast and stuff like that. But plus, like my neighbor has, this is another thing, right? It depends on the cops in your jurisdiction too, because my neighbor has an e-bike that does like 50 or 60 miles an hour that has a 3,000 watt pancake motor on the rear wheel and like 2 giant like lithium polymer battery packs or whatever. It's like literally he built a dirt bike, an electric dirt bike. And he tears ass around town on that thing. No license plate, nothing. Cops never give him any shit. It's got pedals on it like a bike. And, he pedals while it's going like fucking 65 miles an hour down the road and they just leave him alone as long as he's got a helmet on. But if he tried to do that in like Redmond or Bellevue, he'd be fucked. Like the second he did that, like cops would pull in, like probably shoot him with AR-15s. No, that's Seattle. Never mind. That's in Seattle. In Redmond, they would just be like total dicks and write him a ticket for like $10,000 and send him on his way. I mean, that's another thing that helps too. It's just like know the cops in your area. If you're outside of your area though, like just be polite. Like that's the thing is like every cop that has ever pulled me over has ever questioned me. I've always been polite to them. I've always been respectful. I've always given them the information that I felt that they should have. And I've never volunteered information. I did admit 2 times I got pulled over for speeding. I did admit to it. Like, in that case, it was like the dude literally was behind me with the lights on doing like 90 miles an hour down the interstate. So I was like, you got me pretty dead to rights on this one. So then I immediately, just fessed up to it and said, hey, listen, I understand if you got to write me a ticket. Here's all my information. I hope it's in order, officer. And they let those ones let me go with a warning. The tickets that I got for actually very little over the ones that I actually did get.
My most recent one was it was 55 and a 35. And I
double the speed limit is like impounded car, isn't it? You're in Washington?
Well, I wasn't
thinking. No, but I'm saying you're close, right? When you're talking about low speeds like that's like
doing 70.
Come on. That's true. That'd be pretty fast.
But dude was pissed. I could tell he was hella frustrated because
was it small town?
It was right outside the neighborhood here.
Okay, yeah. So small towns are always like that, dude.
Fat hill. There's a big fat hill coming down out of this neighborhood, and then it's like boom, instant residential area. And so like if you're just coasting or whatever, you could easily hit 60 just coasting down this hill, and then boom, you're like it's 35. And so I was coasting, And I came up on him, like he's at a stop. The light just turned green and he just was starting, and I come up on him real quick, whoosh. But I see him, I'm slow down and stuff. And I knew instantly, fuck. He pulls off to the side, gets behind me, pulls me over another block down the way. And he's like, rah, 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 rah. Not like hella yelling, but like I could tell that he was like restraining himself from flipping his shit. It was nuts. Like he was very upset and was doing everything he could to like contain himself. I must have scared him or something. Like his speedometer, his like passive radar thing or whatever must have like flipped.
Yeah, because it's always measuring the speed behind him and in front of him. So I bet you it probably was just like,
it must have
impacted him in it.
Yeah, it must have scared him or something, because he was like, "You know why I pulled you over?"
Did he let you go with a warning though?
No. He gave me the ticket and
Son
stuff.
Of a bitch, man.
But like I said, I should have filed discovery, got a little more detail on exactly how. Because like for one, I'm skeptical I was actually doing 55. I feel like that was conveniently like perfect to get me 20 over.
Yeah, it's a made up number.
Yeah, and so I would have liked to poke a little more holes into, that kind of thing.
You know what's funny is I have a weird experience where it's like the tickets that I did get were from like really calm and collected, very polite officers, very polite encounters. And they wrote me tickets, and the ones that are just fucking aggro and just ready to strangle me and murder me, the majority of the tickets I got out of with a warning were those guys.
Man,
I don't get it. Like you'd think they'd be the ones that want to write you the goddamn ticket, but they're not. I've
only had a couple tickets in like one expired tabs ticket, the whole driving on while suspended license, and that whole rigmarole.
I think I've had 3 or 4,
which they reduced nicely to
5.
They reduced the driving on a suspended license to driving without proper ID or something like that, with ID, but without like driving without a license, but with ID, which is a traffic infraction, not a criminal violation. The suspended license is a criminal violation. Very nice of them for that. And then this recent speeding, but I've been pulled over quite a bit and just let off on warnings.
That's me. I usually get warnings. Like I get pulled over. Actually, now that I'm getting older and I don't drive that much, like during COVID, I haven't been pulled over at all. But like pre-COVID, I got pulled over probably once every like 6 months. I'd get pulled over and get a warning for something.
It was still very many years between each getting pulled over.
And you could always tell that it was an officer that pulled me over because I'm like in a loud ass Subaru with a big wing on it and stuff. They just want to see if it's some punk kid. And then they like come up the window and it's like some middle-aged man. It's like, "Hello, officer. Are you having a great day? Here, have your license." I try to be as polite as hell. And then if they start getting like super aggro on me, then I start shutting down a little bit. But usually they let me off the warning. But the one that I got that was really weird was I was driving my wife back in the day. This was back when I was playing Airsoft like 15 years ago. I'm driving a Lexus RX 300 SUV down the freeway. I'm doing like, I think he got me doing like 85 and a 65. And so he pulled, and I was kind of moving with traffic. Like I wasn't going exceptionally fast. Like, it was I-5, so I was moving with traffic. Anyways, I drew the short straw. He hits me with the radar, pulls me over, probably because I'm in a Lexus. So he hits me with the radar, pulls me over. Plus the other thing too is like if you drive a big vehicle that has a huge radar cross section, you're going to be the guy that they're aiming the radar at if everybody's moving at traffic speeds. Like their best chance of getting a good reading is to hit a big flat surface. Yeah. So this Lexus got me into trouble quite a bit. But anyways, the guy pulls me over. He comes up. I got full camo on. So I look like I'm like stolen valor, like crazy, right? The dude even comes up the window and he's like, "Hey, do you serve?" And I'm like, no, no stickers on the vehicle. He looks at, I was like, "I play Airsoft. It's a gun, like it's a game like paintball where we run around in the forest and shoot at each other." He's like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." And he's standing on the passenger side looking in the passenger window because we're sitting on the side of the freeway. And he goes, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" And I was like, "I really don't, officer. I'm heading, and I told him where I was heading. I volunteered everything. Like he didn't even have to ask me. I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to Paulsville," because I was like, I'm going to get out of this. And I'm super nice to him. He talks to me a little bit. He's like, "Well, he's like, we do got you on radar, doing 85 or whatever on the freeway." He's like, "I'm really sorry." I didn't even ask to be let off with a warning, but he literally followed up with, "I'm really sorry, but I can't let you off with a warning today because we got you recorded on radar and it's already called in before we even pulled you over." So he's like, "I have to write you a ticket, but I'm going to go ahead and write it for 10 under." So it ended up only being, I think, 10. It was a 10 over ticket. And he's like, which cuts it more than half, right? So he's like, I'm gonna write it for 10 under, and, and I literally shook his hand. I stuck my hand out. And I was like, I really appreciate that, officer. And he reaches in and shakes my hand. He's like, well, you have fun playing airsoft today. Don't let this ruin your day or whatever. And he like bangs on the car a couple times and it's back to his vehicle. And I was like, son of a bitch! Like I totally would have got off with a warning if it wasn't already called in, because it was a sting. It was a bunch of police officers that were lined up on one of the on ramps and they were waiting for cars to jet by. And one side gets them on radar, calls it in, and then one of the cops breaks off and goes and chases them down. Like there was already like 2 other cars in front of me a half mile down the stretch that were pulled over. So he had me dead the rights, but like super, super nice. I get a ticket, right? So now I get pulled over in my neighborhood. This is before, this is even early, but this is an example, right? I get pulled over by this old guy. It's got a handlebar mustache. Looks like he's about ready for retirement. He pulls me over for going 7 over. I'm in, it's literally like, I think it was a 15 or a 20. It's my neighborhood where I live. And I just moved in. We just bought the house. This is like 20 years ago. Just bought the house. And I have like this lowered black, Toyota Corolla with white badging all over it and a big wing on the back and a poop can exhaust and tinted windows. Anyways, I pull him, I pull over and he comes up to the window and I've already got like my license, registration, everything out. And he comes up the window and he's like, sir, I pulled you over because we don't tolerate speeding here in my town. Wow. And I was like, and my wife's sitting right next to me, and I'm basically like, I'm trying to jerk a tear here, like, come on, I got to get this guy to not write me a ticket. I got to get this guy to not write me a ticket. And he's like, yeah, we don't tolerate these speed freaks driving around here. He's like, I got you going 7 over the speed limit. And I'm like trying not to laugh, right? And he's like, yeah, that's, you might not think that's serious, but we take that serious here. And we have the lowest crime rate in all of Washington State. Yeah, at the time, now we're like the meth capital. But at the time it was like, we have the best crime rate here. And he just sat there and read me the fucking riot act for like 10 minutes. The dude is just, and he's taking like long pauses, like looking at his paperwork, looking at my ID. You really shouldn't be speeding. Hey, is that car legal? Like you should put a factory exhaust on that. That's loud. There's people sleeping around here. You could tell he pulled me over more for the car, not because I was speeding. Right. And then after reading me the riot act for like 15 minutes, taking all my paperwork, going back to his car 2-3 times, I'm just like fucking exhausted. I'm like, come on, can I please just, we just bought a house in your neighborhood. I kept reiterating that, dude, right here. I'll drive over there and show you. We bought a house over there. And he finally, after that, comes up to the window and he's like, don't let me ever see you speeding in my town again. And he hands me my license back and walks away. And I was like, I was sure I was getting a ticket. That one I was 100% sure I was getting a ticket. Did not get a ticket. And then the one where the dude's like totally nice to me and talking about what I'm doing. Oh, airsoft's cool, blah, blah, blah. Oh, that's cool that you guys do that. He's the one that writes me the ticket. So you never know, man. You never know just from a cop's demeanor whether you're getting a ticket or not. Like that's one thing I've never been able to determine. But the things that do help with getting warnings is making sure that your license, registration, everything is all right there waiting for them. Make sure your hands are in clear view. What I usually do is, so if I get pulled over, this is what I do. Turn off the car, pull out my keys, throw my keys on the dashboard where they're easily seen by the police officer. I reach up, I grab my license, registration, I get my license out and everything. I take all that and I hold it right up to the window with the window all the way down. And I have my other hand up on top of the steering wheel as the officer's approaching. That way in my mirror and everything, he can see that I'm absolutely no threat at all. All my information's ready. When he comes up the window, I already say, hey, I don't even let him say it. I'm like, here's my license, registration, and insurance. And they take it. And usually in those situations, I've gotten off with a warning where they just go through your data really quick. They just go back and run you for warrants and stolen car or all that. And then they come back and they realize that you're no real threat. And then they're like, okay, sir, just keep the speed down. You have a nice day. And that's the majority of every time I've ever been pulled over. Although I did get out of a ticket once because I couldn't access any of that information, which that was a pretty cool story. I was coming back from a LAN party and my Ford, I had a Ford Ranger back in the day. They had like 2 thumping 12s, giant sound system in it, kind of jacked up a little bit. Cop pulls me over. He got me doing 90 and a 60 on the freeway. But it was like 1 a.m. in the morning. Nobody on the road. I don't know where this guy came from. 90 was like the top speed of this vehicle too. It was like literally pinned in 5th gear. Like all the way it was like a 3-hour drive. So I was just pinned through the night trying to get home. Jeez. And the officer pulls me over, but I have like just to give you an idea of how old this video is. I have a CRT. I have a 20-inch CRT monitor, my full tower case, and all of my peripherals and everything stacked all the way to the ceiling on the passenger side of the vehicle. Like I can barely shift into 5th and reverse because there's that much shit packed into the passenger seat and the passenger wall. And the officer walks up and he said, yeah, I need your license, insurance, and registration. So I take out my wallet and I give him my license and I said, sorry, but my insurance and registration is in my glove compartment. I was like, can I get out and walk around and unload all this stuff so I can get it out for you? And the officer just looks at me like dead tired and he goes, he's like, you do have insurance, don't you? And I looked at him and I was like, yes, sir, I absolutely have insurance. And he's like, all right, please keep your speed down and you have a nice morning. And he walked away. And I was like, he totally would have given me a ticket. He was just too lazy to sit there and watch me like unload, 500 pounds of computer shit out of the vehicle on the side of the freeway. So he just out of pure laziness and having to like observe that and watch that happen, he's just like, nah, get out of here. So I don't know if I'd recommend that tactic on the regular, but I thought that was pretty funny that and you could tell he was just done. Like it was like the end of his shift or something, because he's just like, I was like, because I was very, I was cops scared the shit out of me. They still do. So when I'm like sitting there like super hyperactive, shaky hands on the wheel, like, dude, I'll go over there and unload all this stuff. I'll give you a foot massage, dude. I'll go detail your car. Like I just wanted this to end. And the officer you could just tell he was just like, oh my God, I don't want to sit here all night watching this guy like fucking unload and reload shit on the side of the freeway. He's going to end up getting hit by a car. I'm going to get hit by a car. He was just done with it. And I just thought it was funny that he just believes me. Like I even tell him, he's like, you do have insurance, don't you? And I was like, I sure do, officer. And he's like, all right, have a nice evening. Keep the speed limit down though. Okay, sure, I will. I was like, I could have just lied, dude. Like he didn't even go back to his vehicle and run my license or nothing. He just handed it back to me and left. And I was like, this is hilarious. I was like, I should just drive around with all my computer gear sitting in the passenger seat.
Yeah.
Here, can you keep an eye on things for a second? I gotta go drain the wang. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
All right, and then we got some super chats there if you want to read those out.
Sure. I just see Tar Clasp is $6.99 Canadian. Thanks for the info and laughs, everyone. Well, you're very welcome. So yeah, man. Tried to hold his local police because we filmed him doing things against, and he was around to the point of getting asylum in Mexico. Oh man, yeah. Or like there was this one dude. I think it was in New York. He had been secretly recording their internal meetings, like staff meetings, essentially, right? Like in the morning or whatever. And like this was shortly around the time where like the chief of police or whatever had come out saying like, no, we absolutely do not like have ticket quotas or whatever. And he was like a new-ish guy on the force and had recorded their meetings where like they explicitly said like, hey, we're going to go to these neighborhoods because like it's easier to get these tickets and bring people in and blah blah blah. And like went to try to like turn them in, and the union or whatever like completely hosed this guy, like forced him into like psychiatric care because like they claimed like, oh, he's insane, like none of this actually happened. And all this stuff, like it was like 2 years, I think they had him like forcibly in psychiatric care or something, or like under observation or whatnot, because like, oh, he's just making all this stuff up, he's obviously like insane. And then eventually he was able to get like the recordings out and was like completely vindicated and stuff, and like he massive cover up kind of thing. It was insane.
Hey country man, thank you for the $7 super chat, Canadian Ruse.
Oh, nice.
Thanks for the info and laughs, everybody. You were very welcome. Actually, no, that was from Tar Clasp, $6.99 Canadian, and then Countryman tipped $5. Didn't even say anything either. He's like, I will let my money speak for me. And look, wow, look at all these guys.
Hey, thank you very much, Louis.
I don't know what you said while I was gone, but keep doing it. Speaking of which, you should probably pimp your sponsor there. That's paying you good money to take over your little box.
Yeah. So this week we're sponsored by the Never Ever band. Hold on. I had a little thing and everything. Oh, where's my?
Find your blurb. Be professional.
I had some notes and stuff.
Be professional.
I'm sorry.
Come
I'm the worst.
on, Aux. Jeez.
They pay for this stuff.
That person's paying good money to take over your little video block over there.
Where's my email? Here we go. Some info. Nope, that's not the right email. There we go. So the Never Ever band, the band is centered around twin sisters Kathy and Chris and her partner Slim. They were satisfied doing cover tunes at jams until about 4 years ago when Chris and Kathy started writing original songs. The No Emotional Undertow is a 5-song EP that they recorded for a fundraiser and is available on Bandcamp. They're trying to get your music out there. They've been watching TikTok because and actually had the pleasure of meeting Jerry at PDX Land a few years back, where you participated in the AMD toilet paper cosplay contest and ended up winning a graphics card. That's sick.
I remember that. That was good times.
He's got a picture of you looking like a toilet paper Winnie the Pooh. That's
oh my gosh!
cute.
Please reply back to that and tell them to tweet that, and I'll retweet it. That was good times. I remember that.
Right on. So yeah, check them out. The Never Ever band. Yeah, it's good
Never,
stuff.
ever,
It's
ever banned.
it's good stuff. I think I had their link open at one
It's
point. too.
nevereverbanned.com.
That's right.
You gotta visit them.
Nevereverbanned.com. And
No Emotional Undertow is the name of
yeah.
their latest album.
you can check it out.
So get
That's
that.
pretty cool.
Get that now.
man. Pretty freaking cool, I have to say. Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah, no, I'll have to go listen to their stuff later. I like
Check
music,
it
especially
out.
when it's people I know and I've met in real life. Just makes it that much
Right.
cooler. Oh, Miss Liz, thank you for the $5 Canadian dollaroos. She's got diamond. She loves
hands.
the diamond hands. I got cubic zirconia hands because I'm not rich enough to have diamond hands. So I got the cubic zirconia hands. The thing, okay, so the crypto thing we talked about a little bit earlier, but
A little bit, yeah.
But I feel like this just I feel like it's just Groundhog Day. This just happens
Yeah.
over and over again.
It's fine.
And the thing that kind of got me wanting to talk about this was there were so many people on Twitter that were like, I can't believe you're telling people to hold or that you're holding. That's irresponsible. And everybody's going to lose their money because this is going to zero and it's obviously done. And Elon said, and this person said, and this person said. I'm like, oh my God, you guys, please do a tiny bit of research before you start literally helping these people short the crypto. You telling everybody to sell right now, who's going to lose them money? Like, honestly, who's going to lose money? Everybody's selling right now when they've lost 33% of their investment if they just recently bought in, or should they hang on to it for the recovery and actually get their money back and then some? I would take the risk to hang on to it personally. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not telling you what to do, but I thought it was kind of odd that so many people attacked me, given that this pattern happens so frequently. And you'd think that people would start to realize that, like, oh, it's like they understand how the blockchain works. Maybe they watched one of my videos and they figured out that blockchain is more important than just the crypto or the monetary value underneath it. And every one of them seems to think every single time, oh my God, it's finally dead. The environmental impact. Dude, the environmental impact has always been bad for BTC. And by bad, I don't mean compared to the alternatives. It's actually better. But the point being is Elon knew what crypto was. He was invested in Bitcoin forever. Yeah. He's not a guy that's ignorant of things he invests in, right? Yeah. So it makes no sense for him all of a sudden to go, oh, the impact on the environment makes me want to tell everybody to get out of Bitcoin. But shit, go to Doge, which is smaller transaction fees and even more people mining. It doesn't make any sense to me. Other than him just wanting to buy a bunch of cheap shit and triple his money every 5 minutes at everybody else's expense. It's like, don't get me wrong, Elon does some cool shit for the planet, but the dude he's a shrewd businessman that's about the money. Show me the money.
I'm telling you, it's the same thing he did with Tesla stock. It's the exact same thing.
Yep.
Oh, Tesla's going to accept Bitcoin to buy cars, and then what? 3 months later, he's like, oh, just kidding. Yep. Oh, because the environment. Get out of here.
Yeah, and then he's like, we're not going to accept Bitcoin anymore for our cars, but we're gonna be the first car company to accept Doge to buy a car.
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder why? Because maybe you own most of the Doge in the world. Okay, so that makes it somehow better than Bitcoin. Come on, man. Seriously, come on.
Yeah.
No, the reason he did it is because Bitcoin was finite and beyond his control. He couldn't corner Bitcoin. He can corner Doge and has. So he can even stabilize it on his own. If Doge starts going down because the whales sell, he just pumps in from his own wallets. And he couldn't do that with Bitcoin because Bitcoin's just too expensive. With Doge, he can do that. He can float it with his own coin. So if shit starts going south, he just starts buying more of it and pumping the value back up. And that's why Doge has been remarkably stable through all this. It's because Elon found a currency that is long standing, has been around forever. Nobody touched it. It was literally the GameStop version of cryptocurrency. And he was able to pump it and hold it. And because he can hold its value, more and more people find it viable, more and more people invest in it. Now, if he can get Bitcoin to take a tumble, which it is right now, he's going to get more people to invest in Doge because Doge will be more stable. It will appear more stable for the time. It's not really, but it'll appear more stable. And the more people that invest in it, the better off he is since he corners and controls that currency. And so, and I already know what he's going to do. I already know what the play is going to be. You're going to see Elon here in a couple of months tweeting I think the Doge guys should limit the token production or the coin production. I think Doge should do that. And he'll have so much control on the Doge network at that time of buying power that he'll be able to just buy out all the nodes to get them to take the change. And then they won't put out as many tokens. They'll limit the tokens and then it'll start to skyrocket in value, just like Bitcoin did when it was finite. So at least that's my speculation is I think at some point Elon's going to start pushing this idea and other people have been pushing it. It's just nobody's gotten enough adoption yet. But if Doge gets to a certain price, everybody that's running a node is going to agree that it's more beneficial for them to fix the amount of coins that can be produced and basically have them like BTC. And that's going to make the value not just hold stable, but skyrocket.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he's going to do. He's going to corner Doge, and then he's going to keep planting the idea amongst everybody that's mining it and doing it that, hey guys, we should limit the number of coins so that the value of it goes up and everybody makes a buttload of money. But the truth is he'll own most of the coins on the network at that time. So he'll be the one making most of the money. He's also going to do a 51% attack. No, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking is that's why he picked Doge, because he couldn't do a 51% attack on Bitcoin or Ethereum. Because of the number of coins that are already in possession from other people. Doge, all the whales sold at like 7 cents and 15 cents. And so each round there's less and less whales selling because they all got out while it was going up thinking that it was going to tank again. Elon holds it. At a certain point, all the whales are gone and he's just standing there alone, maybe with a couple of other whales that have these massive amount of coins that they can sell and make a lot of money off of. And then none of them are going to want to sell and crash it if they're limited. So if he limits coin production, you're not going to see these whales wanting to dump 1 million coins and drop the value of the currency down to 1 cent or a fraction of a cent again. What they're going to do instead is sell off small lots of like 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 coins so that it can maintain, instead of climbing, it'll just maintain and hold stable so the investors will still stay into it, but they'll just be sitting there milking it for over time, for like an infinite resource. And they probably won't even be able to sell all their coins. They have so many of them, But anyways, it's all speculation, but this just sounds like it's on brand for what Elon likes to do and very similar to what he was doing with the stock. So I'm all in though. I'm all in. I don't even look like I looked at Bitrex just for fun today because we were talking about it. Yeah. But I'm all in. I'm riding it out. I've done this before. I've done this so many times before where I panic sell. All my crypto guys, all my big crypto guys are like, don't sell. It's going to rebound. This happens all the time. They explain it to me, but I have thousands and thousands of people tell me, no, get out, dude. Look at this news. Look at this article. Look at these people. Look at this YouTube video. Look at these gurus saying, oh my God, it's all going to die. It's crashing. It's finally. Every fucking time it comes back and like redoubles. And then you find out that those fucking gurus bought when it crashed because they contributed to it.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not going to do that. Like I didn't even sell. I could have sold and rode the crash down to the bottom and bought back and made a shitload of money. But I'm not. I don't want to contribute to it. I'm just holding. By the way, we have 420 concurrent viewers.
Hey.
Well, I was saying that. Hey.
Blaze it.
Yeah. Anyways, the crypto thing though, I would just say don't worry about it. Like really, really don't worry about it. And the other thing is don't ever invest what you can't lose.
Yeah. It's you always have to think of it as so. It's either and especially I think with the crypto thing till it really like balances out. I tend to take more of like the stock look of things. I need to be better about this. I would like to get into a better habit of just regularly investing X amount every month, regardless. Like let's say $150 a month, regardless. Doesn't matter whether it's up or down. There are certain, and it's whatever I feel comfortable, like, losing essentially. But like, I've made some pretty interesting, pretty good choices so far on certain things. I made a small mistake buying into GE, but whatever, like that's fine. I didn't really lose much, but like I bought as much as I could afford of Carnival when it was really low. Like, if I sold right now, I'd make 150%. Like, and it's only going to go back up. Like the cruise industry and stuff is going to come back. And like, I think their peak, I think Carnival Cruises peak was like almost 50. And I bought into it at like 15 or something. So like, that's great. I normally do like dividend style stuff where like, it doesn't matter if the stock price goes up and down and stuff. I'm still getting my whatever 15 cents per stock every 3 months regardless. So that's kind of where my angle is. It's just like, oh yeah, actually I do need to talk with you, Adam, about bigger like 5-figure sort of plays. But
yeah, speaking of which, I want to get in on that conversation because throughout the entire COVID thing, I pulled everything out and it's been sitting liquid. And it's like, I'm not going to survive unless that shit gets reinvested. So I need to talk to Adam about that. Adam knows a lot about money. I wonder why that is. Why does Adam know so much about money? I don't get it. It's like people that have a lot of something, they know things about it. I don't know why. They have a lot of cars. They usually know a lot about them. It's like Adam knows what's going on, because you don't get rich by not knowing what's going on. That's for damn sure. So yeah. I can attest to that, because I've literally given up like being a millionaire, like 3 times now for making, for making the absolute wrong decision. Just remember, okay, so here's the way it works. If I ever sell crypto, you should be buying like crazy. Like, because every time I sell crypto, it always skyrockets. That's another reason why I'm not selling right now, because I know the second that I sell, when it's low, this will be the lowest point, and then tomorrow it'll be like $80,000 more a coin. So I'm not selling. I'm being stubborn this time and holding. Biker Chris. Oh, actually, Louis Pereira. Thank you, or Para. Thank you for the $1. Biker Chris, thank you for the 10 pounds 69. Giving us keeping that 69. Said, hey guys, how you doing? We're doing all right. Cryptocurrency is strange. I like just getting better doing stuff and slowly earning more money. Yeah, I'm playing the long game. All the best for Rainy UK. That's the thing with crypto is there's just it's exactly like the stock market, just no regulation. Yeah, there will be. Yeah. There actually kind of already is, because you do have to pay taxes and short-term and long-term capital gains and stuff now. You didn't have to do that like a couple of years ago. But it's just like the stock market. It's just completely unregulated. So like the same tactics work, the same methodology. It all applies. It's all transferable. That's why you see a lot of these investment firms like Fidelity and stuff now offering Bitcoin, just like they would a stock, same interface and everything. You can invest in Bitcoin. Is because it's so like it and there's no regulation. So what you can do is you can either buy into something that's stable. Like, I know Bitcoin doesn't seem stable because it crashed, but also look through COVID. The stock market crash wiped out a shitload of people. I lost like a third of my entire 401k and it came back, right? So same thing here. Bitcoin's going to be down momentarily. It will pop back up. It will recover, in my opinion. And so that's a long-term strategy. You basically just hold it and hold it and hold it and hold it and hold it until it turns into what you've set in your head, the goal. And then at that point you can decide to sell or move the goalpost, and make your decision. But if you don't have a goal, that's the worst thing in investing, in my opinion. Is like, if you're like, I have to dump this tomorrow and it either goes up or it goes down, you're just gambling. You're just playing roulette. Like, you have to, the only thing that you should be doing that for is if you have some kind of bot involved in like day trading and it's hedging it across a very large area, then stuff like that actually becomes viable, is like a money-making source. And you can actually, if you know what you're doing, you can survive. But just realize that anytime that you have an algorithm in play, and I know this from my friend who's a day trader, anytime you have an algorithm in play, there's 10 other algorithms out there that are studying your algorithm and what it does so that they can try to undercut you and outpace you. So the scripts have to constantly be evolved. And what do they call them? There's a word for it in trading. It's not algorithms. There's like something like patterns or something like that. Shit, I can't remember the word, but there's a word for it. And it's basically analyzing how the pulse of a crypto, or not of a crypto, but of a stock, the pulse of a stock is, and then creating a script that preemptively looks for the markers that happen, like the little earthquakes before the big earthquakes, and dictate the direction. And then look at like slowdowns and volume trades and everything in real time, and like figure out just the right time to get in and get out, even if it's just like a 3-cent gain. Like, get in there and buy a huge option package, ride it out, sell it. If it's not doing exactly what your script was expecting it to do or predicting it, then sell it before it becomes a loss. Yeah. So it's like, and even then they lose. Yeah. Charting. That's what it is. Charting and trends. But yeah, I've never gotten it. The odd thing is I spent like half my life, like over half my life, writing automation for Microsoft. Like automating is what I did. I automated everything at that damn company. And now I'm on the outside, and it's like, I could write so much automation. I mean, granted, I'd have to take the time to learn the what I'd be automating, which is very complicated. But it wouldn't be hard for me to write my own trading bot, that sits on top of Thinkorswim API or something for Fidelity or TD Ameritrade, and just create my own trading bot. And the cool thing about that is I wouldn't be using somebody else's bot, say like off of GitHub, or actually you can script right into Thinkorswim, or is it Thinkorswim? I think it's called Thinkorswim. It's like TD Ameritrade's like trading platform API thing, where you can actually write scripts and everything like that to bot transactions. And then all you do is basically just give it global approval and it just goes to town. I want to try that out someday. But the thing is with stock is you have to have $25,000 in an investment account to do day trading. Like with any any financial institution in the United States, and you have to maintain that balance. If you go below it, they'll force a sell and kick you off the platform. So you have to have a big buffer. So you really need like 50 grand to be a day trader. Whereas with stocks, with crypto, you don't. With crypto, it's like the whole Robinhood thing. It's like, if you got $10, you can go put $10 in crypto. And if it's something that doesn't have a lot of network transactions, you can move it around between shit coins and become a shitcoin trader. And make a lot of money. And a lot of people do. A lot of people do day trade shit coins, and you don't have to have as much money or as much volume invested in it. And I think the reason that those laws exist is because they don't want people treating it like a lottery, right? Even though every rich person does, they don't want a bunch of people coming into the stock market like they did with GameStop, because if Robinhood didn't exist and platforms didn't exist that allowed you to basically day trade it with small amounts of currency, they never would have had the volatility they needed to do what they did. So because everybody trading has to have like 50 grand invested in their account, right? You're going to have mostly people that know what's going on and all have similar goals. Whereas if you just opened up the public and anybody can just go pump $1 into it like a lottery ticket and then sell if it goes to 2, you disrupt it. Like the bots and shit would be at a huge disadvantage. And they were through GameStop. Like GameStop is a perfect example of that. The hedge funds were not prepared for just thousands and thousands or hundreds of thousands of people just dumping in and going in on investments, sharing them through like Robinhood and some of the other platforms, right? That was completely like not predicted at all. The hedge fund bots all did the wrong thing over and over and over again. And by the time they figured out what was going on, they were already like 8 billion in the red. Keller kind of said you have to have 250K to invest in hedge funds. Those requirements are set by the FEC. That's crazy. Yeah, no, I wasn't talking about hedge funds. I'm just talking about day trader.
Yeah.
So, because I talked to my friend and I was like, how much do you have in your day trading account? He said he had to start it with 25,000, but then that wasn't enough. He said immediately he started getting notifications. So he put it in 50 grand. And now it's like, I think he's up to like 300,000 or 400,000 in his investment account from day trading for a year. So, I mean, he's been really profitable with it. Because the thing is too, over COVID created so much volatility in the stock market. If the day traders like knew what to keep an eye on, my God, did they make a lot of money? Like there were so many things that you knew were just going to go up, right? Like when the vaccine was being developed, a lot of the day trading he was doing was in these like little startups that were doing like biological research and virus research and stuff like that, and making equipment and components for medical industry. And all that shit was like hot, like buy in, sell out. And then there was a point where it was crashing, but they could always see it coming. Like the bots would analyze the trends, see it coming, and then you do lose. Like your bot might buy 20 stocks that are losers, but if in the same day you buy 100 stocks that are winners, you still end up being up, even with the short-term capital gains. Oh, hey, Gimpy, my man.
What up? Thank you.
Thank you for the $9.99. He said, you guys should know David feels so guilty not being here. He enjoys talking to you both, but is doing something super cool that is sucking up his time. I lurk on his stream and keep up the solid work. No, he should never feel guilty not being here.
Yeah.
We don't even pay the dude. Like I feel bad having him on here, but I love that he does. I love that he does. David, come back to us every single time.
Yeah. We love him. We always know ahead of time when he's not.
He's our Canadian brother from another mother. He is always welcome. He can pop in anytime he wants. He can leave anytime he wants. Like he as a matter of fact, he knows too. Like on we're in a group chat together. And I actually give him the links and everything to the stream. So if he ever just wants to like even just pop in and just like punk us and then like leave, he can totally do that. Like he has the means to just jump into the stream anytime he wants, any stream that we're doing. And that invitation's open forever. Biker Chris, thank you for the $10.69. Oh, did I already read that one? Yeah, I did already. He said, yeah, I'm playing the long game. Yeah, in the crypto market. Got it. Do you want to talk about our China joining us on the surface of the Mars?
Yeah, man, good for them. Honestly,
they did a much simpler thing. This funny thing is like watching China's methodology of how to get to Mars versus NASA's. There's a stark contrast there. Like they literally landed their rover just with like a conventional sled, like all the way to the ground.
So yeah, I guess they're the first ones to do this on their first try. Basically, like they launched their thing, it landed and released their rover and everything on their first go, like, which is super cool.
It's a pretty small rover by comparison, isn't it?
I haven't seen any comparisons, but it's super stoked. Good for them. Like, yeah, they landed their thing and then so I guess what it looks like so the way we did it was like we had a thing come into the atmosphere, open up, and then we like craned down the rover.
It was like the most sophisticated way you could land something on another planet.
The way they did it was kind of like how we did it on the moon. They had their thing, their capsule thing or whatever, their pod like land, and then it opened up and let the rover out.
Yeah, and the rover just drove down a ramp. Like it was just it was a very simple design. And it kind of makes you wonder, though, because it's like, why did NASA... Now, again, I have to see the scale. The scale might play a big part in this, if you see it.
Right.
But it's just funny that NASA was like, okay, we need these high-speed, supersonic parachutes. Then we need to, drop this thing and have a sky crane with, 4 rockets that go off perfectly and then hover off the ground and then slowly lower it down with a cable until it gently touches the surface. Then blow the pyrotechnics and fly the sled off 100 miles and, blow it up in the surface. And China's just like... drive off.
And we've done other stuff too, we're the big inflatable ball thing that we did a few years back, where it's this big poof, and then it rolled around until it stopped, and then it opened up and let the rover out. Things like that. I think the sky crane thing is for other applications going forward too.
True.
I think partly to as almost proof of concept to lower big stuff. It says here in this article that the Chinese thing is 530 pounds.
Oh, it's tiny, dude.
Yeah.
That's tiny. I think the rover we put down was like in the thousands, wasn't it? Like 1,500, 2,000. It was the size of a car.
Let me see. Versus what? Perseverance is the one we have. It's the most recent one.
I'm pretty sure Perseverance weighs at least 3 times that. Let's see here.
Here's 5 major differences. Fighters,
dude, 2,260 pounds.
So yeah,
Perseverance weighs over 5 times as much as the China. So the China one is like an RC car. That's why they were able to land it the way they did.
Right.
We probably wouldn't have enough rocket fuel to slow the sled down before slamming into the surface with that payload on it. Wow. Okay. So Perseverance is 10 feet long, 7 feet tall, and 2.7 meters wide. 2,260 pounds or 1,000 kilograms to you guys. It weighs a little less than a compact car. Yeah, that's about right. Because a compact car, 2,500 to 3,000 pounds. So if that thing only weighs 500 pounds, it is fucking tiny, compared to this thing.
It's got to be.
Okay, that explains it then. That explains why they were able to use such a simplified mechanism to put it on the ground, because they literally didn't have a ton of weight. So they didn't need nearly as much fuel to decelerate the thing and land it.
So that's pretty cool. Good for them. And I like that they're claiming in this thing that it's we're not trying to be the best. We're just trying to be there with everybody and share the information and blah, blah, blah. Which, I mean,
I'm going to say something that's really bad. Oh my God. How much you want to bet the Chinese rover just has a little hacker SDK kit on it, and it's going to just drive up to Perseverance and fucking plug a USB cable into it and hijack it? China's you know what? We don't have to build our own Perseverance. We just have to build a hacker bot with a Raspberry Pi that can plug into that shit and just hijack it. And then we can just get all their datas. How much you want to bet their rover just has an antenna on it that just listens to everything our rover transacts back and forth?
Right. It's got to be some kind of encryption and stuff.
I know. I'm just fucking around, but it sounds like something China would do, right? Because they're really big on intellectual property theft. So I can totally see them being oh, we just want to be there with you guys, and they just follow our rover around at 100 yards away, just sniffing all the traffic with their little antenna. The reason the rover weighs 500 pounds is because it's just the computer, the hard drive, and the antenna to record every single thing that's coming off of our rover and every experiment.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. It looks like they landed their thing in between where Perseverance is at and the old Viking 2 from the 70s. So they're pretty far away. They wouldn't, there's no way that they could sneak up on us. They're so far away. You have to put it just perspective that these things move 10 miles an hour or something. They're wicked slow.
Shit, not even that. I think the Perseverance rover, I watched a video that they sent back with the audio of it moving on the surface, and all you just hear is this scratching noise, and it's just barely lurching forward, because it only makes, the whole thing makes 150 watts of power, the radiothermal generator or whatever, and 150 watts of power, if you think about that, isn't much moving something that weighs 2,200 pounds. I bet you that thing's gear ratio is insane.
Right. It's got to be more torque than anything, really.
Yeah, it's just going to move
trying to go
really
quick. Yeah.
Actually, wait, does it have solar panels too, or is it all radio? Is it all that reactor?
I don't know. I would think
know.
There'd be some kind of solar or something on there.
Yeah, because I kind of figured that it'd be smart to have an alternative power source just in case the reactor eats shit or melts down or something. I mean, it's not going to. It's literally I think it's basically just a huge heavy tritium battery. I don't think there's anything that's really sophisticated about it.
2 inches per second is what Adam is saying. So yeah, that's not very fast.
Nothing. That thing's just crawling.
Oh, all heat reactor. Cool. Okay.
Yeah, I know, because it gets really cold on Mars, right? Like during the nights. Like, so they need some kind of heat source to keep shit from like freezing up and locking up and stuff, and all the lubricant getting all messed up.
That's cool.
What about the helicopter though? I wonder, the helicopter has to have heaters in it too then. So I wonder if that little helicopter with its little solar panel or whatever, if it's using like most of its power overnight just to keep itself from like freezing up and deteriorating. Like, I wonder if it's got like a little like hand heater on it or something like that.
Yeah.
That's keeping it going. Cause I can't imagine that's good for it. Like, cause it doesn't go back to the main ship. Like once it was dropped, it stays dropped. So it's sitting all by itself, like next to the rover. So I wonder how it keeps from freezing up. Cause I mean, I can't imagine that solar panel makes that much power. But then again, Mars doesn't really have much of an atmosphere on it. So it probably gets a hell of a lot more solar energy through it than it would here on Earth.
Right.
I actually don't really know. The drone on Mars uses 70% of its power for heat. Holy shit. Okay, well, that answers the question.
Yeah.
Dude, that would suck, man. You literally build something to fly on another planet and you can only use 30% of its energy. The rest is just to keep it from like freezing to death.
I mean, how much power they really need though? Like,
I mean, they got to spin, what is it then? I think the propeller's got to spin at like 2,500 RPM or something. They said it only has to spin at 500 on Earth, like to fly. And God, the balance on those things must be just insanely good.
Yeah, it'd have to be.
It just blows my mind though that we can even do that we can fly that. Like, have you ever tried to fly like a coaxial helicopter before with like no tail rotor?
No.
They're not very stable. They're not like a drone where you have like a motor at each corner and you have like you have to have a controller making like a million adjustments a second. I'd imagine for this it's no different, and you don't get to control it. So the computer's like taking, I bet you a human couldn't even fly that thing. How much you want to bet that a human could not fly that thing on Mars, like with how fast the blades are spinning? Yeah. I bet you that thing requires a computer, just like the F-117 or whatever stealth bomber. I bet you has to make a million fucking corrections a second just to keep that thing in a hover.
It looks like the Chinese one, it says here that the Zhurong is a solar-powered rover designed to last at least 90 days.
Wait, 90
Martian days? 90 Martian days.
Oh, okay.
It's equipped with high-resolution cameras, blah, blah, blah. The rover also carries subsurface radar to look inside the surface, multispectral camera, surface composition detector, magnetic field detector, weather monitor. So, that's not too bad. They're doing all right. And let's see, it looks like they have some other thing.
So wait, they spent all that money to put the rover up there, and they're saying it's how many? What's a lunar cycle on Mars?
We did that. We put the tiny one up there. It was only supposed to last like 90 days too, and it went on for 15 years. That is true.
That is true. Was that Curiosity or whatever?
The original plan is for 90 days, but I'm sure that they'll get just as much out of theirs as we did.
Yeah. Did you see how fucked up the wheels are on that thing on the first wheel?
It got
rover?
all kind of man.
Dude, it just looks like somebody just took tin snips to them. Like they're so banged up from the rocks. Like, and still again crawling at that speed, over that amount of time, it still just shows you like the deterioration is crazy, man.
Huh.
Camaro 85. Thank you for the 10 euros.
Hey, nice.
He said 2 undercover cops behind me stopped my dad's car. Me was 20 over, really too fast. Was 20 over really fast. Cop screams, let's see here. What? Watch it or I'll press charges. 2 minutes later, comes and said, calm. Greed your dad for me and drive slow now. What? Here, you're gonna have to read that one. I'm having a hard time like figuring out this.
2 undercover cops behind me stopped me. It looks like he was driving his dad's car, was going 20
there
over.
We go. Yep.
Really too fast. Cop screams. I'm not sure. Watch it or I'll press charges. 2 minutes later, somebody comes and like greet your dad, like say hi, and drive slow now.
Oh, like say hi to your dad.
Like maybe the second cop comes up and was like, hey,
like he knew his dad or something.
Yeah.
Thank you for the support, Camaro. We appreciate it. Sorry, sometimes I have a hard time like going through and reading some of this stuff. It's all on me, bro. It's all on me. Let's see here. Oh wait, that's in a vacuum 1% of Earth. He has a video of somebody piloting it.
Of a human piloting this thing, and it's pretty bad.
Oh yeah, like, I bet you they couldn't. It probably just takes off and like does it just like flip over and slam into the wall every time he takes off?
The first few seconds of it are really awful, but it looks like they get better.
Because I had a thing, it was called a Blade CX, and it was like this little coaxial hobby helicopter. And I remember it took me weeks and weeks of practice to be able to hold it in a hover within like a 2-foot box. Like it was just so unwieldy. And you had to constantly trim it too, because when you're spinning the rotors counter to each other to make sure that they're maintaining that RPM, because you can't use like the servo motors or whatever that are like perfectly positional. So you're constantly having to adjust the battery, because the way the battery drains and each motor's fed off a cell on the battery. So you're having to constantly trim it or it'll just start rotating. Like as the battery dies, it'll start rotating left and right, and it's always trying to flip on its side and slam into shit. Like when drones came out, we got spoiled. Like now everybody can fly drones, like even the manual drones, like the little racing drones and stuff. It's like, as long as you just push up and you just put them in a hover, they stay in a hover pretty good, even when they're not GPS controlled. For some reason though, man, those guys that you see with the RC helicopters, they're like gods.
Yeah.
They're absolute gods. The guys you see with the RC helicopters doing like the flips and mowing the lawn and like, dude, if you've ever tried to fly even an electric helicopter, a tail rotor helicopter, it is nightmarishly difficult to keep those things balanced and like flying stably. So I have no freaking idea how they do that. Oh, he said he knew my dad and let me go. Okay, no, you're right. You're right. Okay. So, no, and I've actually been through that experience too. I think I told all you guys the story. At least I did over on Twitch. I think I told you guys the story of my friend Cam growing up, who literally like wrecked like 3 of his cars, and I was in one of them when he wrecked it. And every single time we got pulled over by police for like blowing through stop signs, racing, everything, he'd come up to the window and be like, "Oh, hey, I know your dad." Like, because his dad was a detective, which is fairly high ranking, apparently, for the local police department. So he was a detective. So every time he'd walk up, be like, "Oh, you're so-and-so's son. Oh, okay, well, hey, just keep the speed down. You have a good day," or whatever. Never ask for his license and registration or anything. And the only time that he would ever get a ticket is if we were outside of his town. Like if we left Port Orchard and went to Bremerton, for instance, and he got pulled over, he'd treat the cop like a total dick and he'd write him a ticket and flip him shit. And then he'd just go to court and fight it and get it thrown out. Like he didn't have like any tickets on his record after like, you know, being pulled over like 1 million times in a year. Yeah. And, but yeah, anytime he was in his own town, shit, if you have a parent that works at the police station or whatever, it's just that honor among thieves, I guess, because they don't enforce the law the same with their own and each other's families. Like, for instance, one of the best ways to get out of a ticket even today is still to donate to the policeman's ball. Right. Like if you ever get the opportunity, because if you donate, and there's a reason they do this. So if you donate like $20, they give you like a sticker. If you donate like $50, they give you a different sticker. And if you donate like over $100, it's a gold sticker. And you stick that in the window, and they even say on the sticker when you get it in the sheet of paper, it's like, place this on your driver's side rear windshield or B pillar. Yeah. And the reason being is because that's the side that the police officer approaches you on when you get pulled over. And if they see that sticker, they usually thank you for it right when they come up the window. I've never gotten it myself, but I've been pulled over in cars that have had that sticker. And the first thing the officer says when they walk up to the window, it says, "Thank you so much for supporting your local police department." And then immediately you're like, well, this is going to be pleasant. And then they're like, "Could you keep your speed down? You know, oh, hey, could you?" And unless they have to write you a ticket, unless it's a situation where you're like endangering people really badly, and they just let you go. It's like you pay your $100 tax a year to the policeman ball or whatever, and you just don't get a ticket if you're speeding a little bit. Huh. So I'm thinking about doing that myself. Although I don't know what they'd think about like rolling up on like a STI that's got a giant wing and a poop can exhaust, and it's got like the policeman ball sticker in the rear window. Yeah. So yeah, if you're ever driving around and you see, you know, a rich person car with a gold police star in the back window or whatever, that doesn't mean they work for the police department. It just means they paid like $100 towards the policeman ball and got a sticker.
Let's put my own sticker.
What's that?
I'll put my own sticker. Yeah,
no, I've thought about it. Wouldn't that be funny? Because it wouldn't be illegal. Like you're not impersonating anything. It's literally just a sticker to show that you donated something. Like. Right. I just get it and put it in like the oven and like fade it out and shit and make it look like it's all weathered and stuff and stick it on there and be like, "Hello, officer. How you doing today?" Like get the platinum one where you donated like $10,000. Killer Condom said it's the spouses of cops that died fund. It's about $5,000. Oh, is that the good one to get? Is that like the absolute 100% get out of jail free card? Watch it go over to Adam's house. He has them on all of his cars. Right. He has them on his cars and on his bicycle and like on his little dirt bike. Wow. Spouses of cops that died fund. I don't think I've been called by those guys yet. Huh. But I do get called every year for the policeman's ball and the fireman's ball, and both of them tell you the same thing. They're like, you know, if you donate like $20 or whatever, you get this, and $50 you get this, and $100 you get the sticker that you can put in your car window to show everybody around you that you support your local police department or whatever. It's like hint, you know. They can't really tell you're going to get out of a ticket for it, but and there's even one for there's one for police, one for fire department. I think there's one more too, like one other sticker that you can get too. from donating money. That's supposed to be a good one if you get pulled over. It's got a better name, but I'm in the hot tub. I'm going over to see Adam tomorrow, man. I'm gonna bring my shorts too, because I'm gonna work my way into that hot tub one way or another again. That is just a good time, man. That is
so
a good time. Sushi Boy said you told me to remind you about the capacitor stories where you had electroboomed yourself. What? That was supposed to be over on my Twitch channel, but we might as well talk about it here. We're talking about so the other day I decided to become a microwave repair guy because my microwave. Geez. Well, okay, so apparently this is a common failure. So people in chat are probably gonna be like, "Oh, my microwave does that." Yeah. So our microwave started just turning on when you open the door, which is really scary, weird. Right? That's really scary because it's literally microwave radiation, right? There's a magnetron in there putting out a fair amount of 1,500 watts of radio microwave energy. It's non-ionizing, so it's not gonna give you cancer, but it'll sunburn the shit out of you.
Yeah, man.
You don't want that. You don't want it to cook you while you're standing in front of the microwave. So anyways, you open the door and the fan turns on, the light turns on, and everything turns on. It sounds like the microwave's just running. The turntable's moving, everything. So you close the door immediately because it's scary, right? You're like, you don't want to open that shit with invisible microwave radiation coming out. So I'm like, fuck, I need to figure out if it's actually on or if it's just pretending it's on. So I take an aluminum ball and I throw it in there and I open the door and crack it just a little bit, and the aluminum ball doesn't do anything. So I'm like, okay, I think the magnetron's off. But just as a control, I close the door and I hit the timer and say 1 minute and I turn it on and the ball just starts arcing fucking purple and blowing my microwave up. Whoa. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I now know that the magnetron is off, but I'm still afraid to use the microwave because what if it does fail in a way that the magnetron comes on? I'll have no way of knowing because the microwave's fully powered on. Instead of just the light coming on, everything comes on. Turntable, fan, the whole works. So anyways, it's scary. Even though I knew it wasn't putting out microwave radiation, it's kind of like, have you ever flipped off the breaker and you're doing electrical work and you're still afraid to touch the wires?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like that same mentality. It's even though I proved through a test that there's no microwave radiation when the door is open, everything is still on and it's telling my brain I'm getting fried. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to use it this way. So I decide to fix it and I take it apart and I do a whole Twitter thread. If you guys go over to Twitter, there's a whole thread over the course of 2 hours where I'm disassembling my microwave. I rebuild a micro switch and I get the whole thing working. It's fixed again. So I figured out how to fix my microwave. Yay. It's now I don't have to pay $500 for another one of these really expensive range microwaves. And it's 20 years old. So it's kind of a point of pride to keep this thing on life support. And, but I was telling the story over there and everybody's like, oh, you're going to kill yourself. You're going to get electrocuted. There's a capacitor inside the microwave that can kill you dead. And everybody was freaking out that I'm working on this microwave. They're like, you're going to die. So I started tagging Electroboom. You know Electroboom, right?
Yeah.
So I started tagging him over on Twitter and I'm like, you'd be proud of me, dude. I'm tearing this thing apart and I haven't killed myself yet. Well, we got to talking about me repairing the microwave. We were talking about other stories where I've had close calls with electricity because I've been shocked a lot of times throughout my life. I have a healthy fear of electricity because I've been shocked so many times. And one of the most dangerous ones that I had was my stereo system that I had in the back of my Corolla. The Corolla that I talked about earlier had two 12s in the back, and it had a 1,500 watt power acoustic amp that was this big back then. It was half the width of my trunk. And I had a 1 farad capacitor because without the 1 farad, those capacitors that look like a giant beer can.
Yeah.
So I had one of those in there because and I'm installing it. This is when I'm installing it. This happens. And so I had one because anytime that I turned up the volume too much on the bass, it would literally start killing the headlights on my car and making the ignition misfire. So I'd be driving down the road at 60 miles an hour on the freeway at night, and I'd go to turn my headlights on, and the headlights would draw just enough power that every time I hit a bass note, the lights would go to 1/4 dimness, and it would start misfiring, go boom, 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 boom. It was killing my motor. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to install this cap. So I buy it. Well, I didn't realize that these capacitors charge so fast. Joke's on me. That's what a capacitor does. So I take the capacitor and I plug it in. And I put the little contact on it, and so now it's got the live wire coming from the battery through the capacitor through the amp, which is on, and it's flowing electrons. It charges up the capacitor, and I'm tightening up one of the posts on the capacitor. And it's at night. I'm outside, and I've got my regular wood handle screwdriver with a metal collar on it, and I'm twisting the thing, and I'm tightening down the top, and I drop the screwdriver. When I twist it, the screwdriver hits across the other terminal on the capacitor. And you hear this loud whap in this flash of light. It was so bright that my dad inside of the house, because it's dark outside, right?
Oh yeah.
My dad comes running out the door because he thought it was lightning. Yeah, he thought it was lightning. And I looked down and the screwdriver was welded between the terminals on the capacitor. Like it literally welded itself to the metal. The only way that I could get off is I had to sit there and grab it and reef it back and forth as hard as I could to get it to break off, and there was a chunk missing out of both the bolts that were going into the top of the capacitor.
Wow.
And I was like, and it discharged like instantly. Like it was one of the brightest, like it snow blinded me. Like I could not see for like several seconds at all. I was just like, am I dead? And it was the loudest boom ever. Like I could not believe that like an electrical arc could be that loud.
Yeah.
And so what would have happened if I had been like holding that screwdriver? Like probably nothing, because it would have just gone to the negative terminal, right? And
It still hurt.
and probably the heat just alone, right? Because it was glowing. Like it flash heated that metal. And so that was one of the close calls where I didn't actually get shocked, but it scared the ever living bejesus out of me. And that capacitor could have killed me easily. Like the amount of power that was inside of that capacitor, if I had crossed that through my chest or something like that, probably would have dropped me deader than a mackerel. So, but the one that almost killed me was working on a CRT. So, the little computer store that I worked at called Mothersboard Computers, they'd buy these pallets of used monitors from auctions, and then they'd all come in and be blurry. You remember how monitors would get blurry? Like the old CRTs would just start to get blurry over time. Well, I figured out that the way that to make them unblurry is there's a focus knob on the back of the CRT on this thing called a flyback. And so you take the back off the monitor, you unplug it, you take the back off it, you stick a screwdriver through a hole on a metal plate, and you twist this thing, and, preferably with a plastic, tool that's designed for doing it. I never did. I always used just a regular metal screwdriver. And so I'd stick it in there and I'd adjust these things, and they'd put them on sale and sell them to the public. And I'd usually put a goop of hot glue on them too, so they wouldn't move. Well, my monitor starts getting blurry at home one night, and I'm like, well, I'm going to fix my monitor doing the same thing. So I popped the back off. I think it was a ViewSonic. I'm not sure. No, it was cheaper than a ViewSonic. It was like some shit Omni something with like a little twisty dial on it. It was made by some company you've never heard of. Yeah. And so I take the back off the thing, and I'm like, oh, I'm just going to do the same thing I did at the store. So I go grab my dad's shitty screwdriver that's like metal and goes up to a wood handle and has a little metal collar on it. And what I didn't realize is I'm sticking the screwdriver through the side of this thing to adjust it, and it's unplugged. It's fully unplugged. This is just a testament to how much power is stored in a CRT capacitor system. So I stick the thing in there and I start twisting it, and it's like operation. There's a hole in this metal plate that you have to go through to get to the screw to turn it. But that plate I didn't realize was charged. Like this giant metal plate that's in there. I don't know if it's to dissipate like heat or whatever. Well, powers. I don't know what its purpose is. Just a metal plate. And so I touch the screwdriver to the side of the metal plate, and it jolts me hard. Yow. So hard that I push the monitor into the side of the thing and shove myself into the wall, and I go through the drywall and stick between the two beams and the wall. So, and I'm just completely out of it. The screwdriver is welded to the side of the little thing, stuck in the screwdriver. The monitor remarkably isn't blown up. Like I thought the monitor exploded, but I'm stuck in the wall, and I feel like I can't move. Like I feel paralyzed. And I feel my whole body's buzzing. I feel like I'm dead. And I'm stuck in the wall. My mom just comes, you hear her just barreling down the hallway, busts open the door, and I'm literally jammed between the beams right next to my computer desk, like in between the beams, and the drywall's punched out. And I'm literally just kind of like sitting in the wall. And my mom's like, oh my God, what happened, Junior? What happened? Oh my God. And I'm like, I don't know. Like I was working on my mom, and I was out of it. Like I was so tired. I was struggling to stay awake. So my mom comes over, and she's like reefing on me, and she gets me out of the wall, and she gets me sitting in the chair, and she goes and gets me a glass of water, and she's like, yeah, are you okay? Are you okay? And I mean, it hurt. Every muscle in my body felt like I just like punched my way, knocked out Mike Tyson. I hurt so bad. And I was like, the whole night I felt like I was 1,000 pounds.
I bet.
Like it knocked the ever living shit out of me.
Cause every part of you like tensed up as hard as it possibly could for like a blink, and like, oh, that's hard. It was
brutal. It was brutal. Yeah. And then so I've had a couple times I've been shocked, but that was one of the ones where it like pushed me into a wall. So you can imagine how hard I hit the wall to break the drywall out of it. Like I kicked, like I think I was bending down, and I'm fucking with the monitor, and it hit me so hard that I basically just rabbit kicked the ground and threw myself into the wall. And I was like, so that one hurt really bad. That was a really bad one. But the one that was longest that I'm surprised didn't actually kill me was when same thing, working at this computer store. We used to change fuses and power supplies when they blew, the little internal fuses that they have on some of them. And some of the power supplies aren't very serviceable. Like you have to literally take the top off of them and dig down inside of them to get to the little fuse that's on the breadboard. And so I was in there, and we have the power supplies plugged in on these computers to a power strip. And the way that we cut power when we're working on them, because we don't want to have to keep unplugging them and replugging them to test them, is we just flip the switch on the power strip to turn it off. And so I turn off the power on the power strip, and I'm in my workstation. I'm inside of this thing, and I'm installing the fuse with my hand. I should have been using pliers, but I had my hand, and I'm jamming the fuse down into it. And as I'm pushing the fuse down into it, one of my coworkers walks by and flips the power on the switch. He plugs something in and flips the power on the switch. And right when he did, my arm like twisted backwards and jammed me down into the power supply, and I was pinned against the desk. And I was just making a noise. I was just going, and luckily, my coworker that turned on the power switch realized that I was just getting the ever-living shit shocked out of me. And then it finally blew the fuse because it was an old building. It didn't have breakers. It had fuses. And I felt like I was getting shocked continuously for like 2 or 3 seconds solid. And as soon as the fuse popped, I just went completely limp and just ragdolled to the ground. And my boss is like running out and grabbing the phone and, getting ready to call 911 or whatever. And I'm like, no, I'm okay. I couldn't move. I sat there for 45 minutes. They're like, dude, you should go to the hospital. But I didn't have medical insurance. So I was always afraid of going to the hospital because the bill would be so much. And I only made like $9 an hour. So I'm like, no, I'll be okay. Okay. So they're like giving me water and they prop me up against the wall. And my whole body feels like it went to sleep. Like, when your foot goes to sleep, my whole face and body felt like that. And after about 45 minutes, I tried to go get my truck to drive home because they just let me go home. They're just like, oh, you take the rest of the day off. And I went to try to drive home and I was too weak to push the clutch in on my truck. So I literally had to just stay at work, sitting there, just drinking water, like just chilling on the floor for like another hour or so before I could finally drive my truck home. So I was like, that was probably the worst electric shock that I ever had. And by all rights, I should have died. Like that should have been fatal. Because I felt that through my entire body, dude. Like, like I felt it all through my head, through my chest muscles, through my ab muscles. Like everything tensed up, and I was like, I don't recommend experiencing it, but if you ever get like hit with AC current, like 110 AC current, man. It literally makes you feel like you're squeezing every muscle in your body as hard as you can, like instantly, and then holding it until it stops. Like you literally just curl up in a ball. Yeah, and so I don't know how I survived that one, but that one had lasting effects. Like I literally had a headache for a couple of days. I felt like I tore a bunch of muscles. Like I was really sore for a couple of days and wasn't walking too good and couldn't lift shit up. That one fucked me up good.
It's no joke.
And the funniest one, looking back on it, was probably when my dad almost killed me starting a race car because he told me to hold on to the spark plug.
That's no joke, man.
Yeah, he didn't tell me where to hold it. He just literally hands me the spark plug with the boot on it and says, hold this against the block. And he's like, if I turn it over, he's like, tell me if you see a spark, because he just installed a race ignition on this like shitty ass what was it called? It was a really old, or like not a Gran Torino. It was like the shitty poor person Gran Torino or whatever. And he just put a motor in it and he upgraded the ignition system, this MSD ignition that was like 20,000 volts or something. And he has me hold on to the thing against the block, and he goes in and turns the key. And as soon as he bumps the key, I just go flying back into the blueberry bushes.
It was thankfully, so I did something similar, but it was a small gas engine, like a half horsepower Briggs and Stratton kind of thing in school. Because like you can hold onto the spark plug and just like rest the metal part on the block to see if you're getting spark, right? You just yank the thing and it'll spark for you. Well, if you're at all touching that metal collar on that fucking spark plug, it's gonna ground out through you, buddy, not the block, because you're closer. Oh man,
it's like being hit by a taser times 1,000.
Oh man, yeah, that's thankfully because it's just the whatever it can generate from you pulling the cord. It wasn't much because it was just and then you let go and you're fine. But man, no joke.
That's the weird thing is I was wearing shoes.
Cars will kill you.
Yeah.
Cars will kill you, dude. That's like 10,000 plus volts to get that spark to go on a car.
Well, dude,
like,
how far did it
nuts.
jump though? Because I literally had shoes on and it still grounded out through my body, like even with shoes on. So that was like some serious voltage. And so my dad, so what do you think my dad does? Like being the awesome person that raised me, like what do you think my dad did as soon as that happened?
Laughed at you?
No, he got out screaming bloody murder. Like, what the fuck are you doing? You held the thing wrong. You could have fucking blown up my ignition system. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like sitting in the bush like, oh God, I'm going to die. And so he doesn't even help me up. He just like leaves me sitting in the bush and then he storms off in a tizzy. And I'm like, dude, you're not even like keep an eye on me? Like, while I'm like sitting in the bush here all jacked up.
You're fine.
But that one properly hurt, but it was over instantly. It was like that one was like, he turned the key, I heard the starter, I'm in the bush. Like it was like 1, 2, 3, done. But the one with the power supply was the most painful one that I ever had. And that was where it grabbed me. And people say that you can let go of AC. No, fuck that. It's alternating too fast because I could not release it. Like I literally bound up and jammed my hand down into the power supply. I could not get off that thing till the breaker blew or the fuse burned out.
What can happen though is you'll tense so hard that you kick yourself off. You basically all of your muscles like squeeze so hard that you know.
Oh, like what happened with the monitor? Yeah, when the monitor hit me, I jack jumped away from it.
So,
but yeah, no, the power supply though. And the thing is, was it DC or AC? That's the thing I don't know. Is like the power supply where the fuse is. Is the fuse the AC or is that after it goes through DC conversion?
I don't know.
Because maybe that's why I balled up. Maybe I touched something in the power supply that was after it got converted to DC and I was getting that full DC jolt. But all I know is it hurt like fucking hell. And it felt like it took an eternity for that fuse to burn out.
My brother was in welding, one of the first freshmen ever to get into the welding class in high school. And some idiot didn't ground, like somebody was doing something in the arc welding station, didn't reconnect something the way they ought to, and another guy comes up to start doing their thing, and as soon as he pulls the trigger on the thing, the table they attach the ground thing to the table or to the stool, something stupid. But as soon as he hit, not my brother, somebody in the class, as soon as he hit the go button on the arc welder, bang, it arced through the kid into the floor, into the concrete floor. And I remember him showing me pictures of like the burn in the welding jacket and the hole it blasted in the kid's shoe and the burn mark in the concrete because it arced through and grounded out in the rebar in the floor of the shop.
Dude,
like could have killed that kid.
Welders are scary, dude.
Yeah.
Because actually, a lot of people don't know this, but I did a lot of MIG welding. Like MIG welding was a big hobby of mine. And me and my buddy, Tom from Microsoft, we used to on the weekends get together every weekend and we'd build like mini bikes and go-karts and shit from raw steel. Like we'd start with raw steel. And we just used it as an excuse to weld because we were both into welding. And when I first started welding, man, I did not realize like how hazardous welding is. Like everything about it is like, if you know people that are, I don't think welders live that long. Because the smells from like the burn off and the vapors and the ozone like become massively toxic if you're not in a well ventilated area. The other problem that I had is the first time I welded, I wasn't wearing the protective sleeves. Ooh, and so you feel like it feels like mosquitoes are like stinging your arms and shit while you're welding, but you don't really think about it. You're like, it's not that bad, right? It just feels like your arms are getting tickled. As soon as you're done welding, your arms are just sunburned like shit and freckles from every one of those little pieces of metal just burning your skin.
Because it's like surface of the sun hot.
Yeah,
like these tiny flecks of metal are like glowing bright white hot, but they're so tiny that it just feels like bacon grease.
Dude, they blow right through jeans too. Have you ever seen a welder like where the shower of sparks goes through their jeans? I had that happen because I was I was a dumbass and I got under something and I was welding it as it was up on jacks. I was trying to weld a pan onto the bottom of a go-kart and I'm sitting there down here going because I don't want to get it in my face even though I got the mask on, which would have been better by the way because the mask would have protected me. So I'm like slid down like this, looking down at an angle of my mask. I'm like, and you see the giant shower of sparks hitting my legs, and it burned like 100 little black holes were burned all the way through my jeans, and I had little burn spots all over my skin. I was like, holy shit, jeans won't even protect you?
Dimebag makes a good point though. Part of that, like the sunburn part is the infrared, just the heat coming off of it. But I've seen the little micro burns from the tiny little the sparky flecks of hot ass metal. Like
the sunburn is real though. Like when I watch the videos of the guys that are welding, they're just putting their hand up to it like I'm like, the fuck, how are they doing that? Because like I always wore a coat with full sleeves and a leather jacket once we got into it, because you destroy your, like my shoes. I was wearing New Balance shoes, completely destroyed them. It melted through my shoes, like all the way down. Like I could feel the burns on the top of my foot through my shoes and through my socks, just from little slag drops or whatever coming off. And so dude, it's try welding sometime. It's a trip. And the other thing too is, have you ever looked at a weld like accidentally? Like I had a mask that had one of those it had like a thermal cell, or not a thermal cell. What is it? Like a photo sensor. And when you started welding it, it instantly turned the thing black. Like it was like a LCD flip panel. So you could find your weld. And then as soon as you started welding, it would turn black and block it. And the problem is the batteries would go dead, and you'd think, oh, it's powered by the solar panel. It's not. It's powered by batteries inside. The solar panel just tells it when to turn on and off. And I wouldn't charge it up, and I'd go and I'd hit that arc and it wouldn't turn on, and I'd just be like bright eyes looking into the arc, and it'd make your eyes feel like somebody sprayed you with pepper spray or threw sand in your eyes. Like your eyes felt burnt, and it was like dried out and hard to move them and stuff. And like it took hours to recover from that. Like I'm actually surprised that, I mean, I don't know, I might actually have some permanent, vision loss from doing that, but it's weird. It hurts. Imagine looking at something that physically hurts. Like your eyes are itching and it feels like somebody rubbed like salt in your eyes. It just from looking at it, for a second, it's wild. And that's not even a big MIG welder. The one that we were using, I mean, it was a 220 miller, but it wasn't like one of those ones that you'd use like for ship welding and shit where you're going through like an inch of steel, right? Those are probably, tens of times more powerful than the one that we were using. It is fun though. Welding is fun. Like once you understand, like, how to protect yourself properly, and you're in a well ventilated area and everything. Welding is amazing because metal is cool to work with. Because unlike wood, like if you fuck up, you just weld another bead onto it, grind it down, and you're good. Like you can fix all your mistakes. Well, for the most part, there's some cases like axles and shit like that you're never gonna get right. But I always like that because if you fuck something up, you could just weld metal back on, grind it down, and just keep going. And I always thought that was really cool because like with wood, it's like you fuck something up. It's like you got to find another piece of wood that matches exactly, glue it into the place, sand the seams, and still it's not going to look perfect. But with metal, it's like as long as you're using the same type of metal and you weld it up and you build up a beam, because we did that. We'd cut shit too short. And so we would just weld a beam across it or weld a bead and then weld another bead and then weld another bead. And then it would literally look like there's like an inch of beads on one side to make up the gap. And then we just take an angle grinder, like beat it down. And I mean, it probably wasn't the strongest thing on earth, but it worked. And it looked right. Like once you ground it all down, it all looked the same. Like you couldn't tell like where the weld was half the time, which I thought was cool. Let's see here. Dingo on my 40. Thank you for the $2. Said, did you check out the Mars VR video on Oculus? I have not actually. Did they post like a 360 video of Mars? Let me see here. What? Mars VR video. So NASA Mars drone in VR 360 video. Here, let me see this. Oh, wow. Nah, that doesn't look right. That looks like that's CGI. What's the real one? Mars in 4K 360 view? No, there's a bunch of them uploaded. Hold on, let me see this one.
Exported from Unreal Engine. That's cute.
Oh no, this one's real. Okay, I found you can see the stitching. That's the other one was definitely CGI. This one's stitched together from a whole bunch, and you can like rotate your head around and see. This is kind of cool.
Right on.
So yeah, no, I might go throw my head in the old Oculus Quest and take a look later. Oh, that's really cool, actually. It's a whole bunch of them. It's a whole bunch of 360 images that are stitched together. Oh, man, that is cool. Some of them from the old Rover, too. Huh. Yeah, they don't... Do they have a 360 cam on the new one, or are they still just photo stitching like they did with the old one?
Oh, I don't know.
Because I wish they had a 360, because then you could actually see the video. Like, you can't do that with the photo stitching where you have, like, a video, like a live video, because you're having to stop and take each picture. But with like a 360 camera, it'd be cool to have a video where you could actually look around and kind of see like the wind blowing the dust on the surface and stuff. That'd be pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
Angle grinders hide your crimes. Let's see here. That's a sound. Wait, that's a system sound coming through the stream. Oh, sorry about that, guys.
I bet it's his AC, not that gorgeous Puget Systems PC that I built.
Oh yeah, no, that thing's dead quiet. You're hearing the AC scream behind me for sure. And I don't have any filters on. I don't think on this. Well, we got to start wrapping it up. It's 1 o'clock. I didn't realize it was 1. Oh, shit. We just got a super chat. So maybe we got to go a little longer.
Yorkshire
Techie. Thank you for the 10 pounds.
I'm not some pleb who says Yorkshire. Yorkshire tea, right?
Thank you for the 10 pounds, dude. He said, here's some pizza and beer money. Watching you on my big screen TV. That's the only way to watch us, sir. He said, had a colleague who got lots of burns from our hot food counter. What's your favorite foods and drink? I got a lot of favorite foods, as you can tell. Like,
I'm a big fan of chicken wings. It's kind of my top right now is chicken wings. I'm a big fan of like beef stroganoff, but I don't go out of my way to eat it the way that I do chicken wings.
My all-time favorite food is probably a good lasagna and French bread.
Ooh,
like that's probably
nice.
like my all-time. I don't have it very often, maybe like twice a year, but that's like my delicacy. Like that is good. Like when you do that, that's really good. As far as like my go-tos that I eat a little bit more often, probably like fajitas. I love some chicken vajitas. I also as far as like favorite drink though, that's kind of a hard one because like I don't know if I really have like
coffee.
A favorite drink. I mean coffee obviously, but not because I like the taste of it. It's just because it jacks me up.
Yeah.
For me, for like just I don't know, for drinks that I like having stuff that's like different each time. Like I like change when it comes to drinks. Like I'll try mixing shit together a lot of times. Like I'll take some Red Bull and mix it with like some peach juice like I did yesterday. And it was fantastic. I'll take some seltzer water and mix it with various juices and stuff like that. Just because I like having like new flavors when it comes to drinks. But I don't drink alcohol much anymore. Like I've had 2 beers in the last 3 months. So and one of them was like with Adam the other day. We like cracked one in the hot tub, and then my neighbor brought one over while I was like mowing the lawn just because he wanted to shoot the shit since we're both vaccinated now. So he like brought a beer and he's just to force me to like stop for a second and drink a beer and talk to him. And we had a good time. So, but I don't like drinking it because I already struggle with problems with dehydration from the medications that I take. And alcohol is like the biggest dehydrator of them all. Like it makes coffee seem tame. So, if I drink a beer, I got to drink like another half gallon of water so I don't like dry up and turn to dust. Sliced raw potatoes to take the burnout. What? Oh, Jerry, that's called flash burn for your eyes looking into the flash. Use duct tape over your shoelaces when you're welding. Wait, duct tape can survive the welding shit? What is it about duct tape that survives it? That's kind of weird. Because like my shoes, it was like going right through my shoes, and that's kind of a thick material. It doesn't go through leather though. That's the weird thing is like because you wear like when I was welding, we eventually got a leather apron and leather arm guards. So like they're like these leather sleeves you just stick your arms through, and then you just wear gloves. And then welding was like no problem. Like if you had to weld for long periods of time, you could get away with like welding for like 15 minutes or a half an hour or whatever off and on, and you wouldn't get too sunburned and you wouldn't get too fried. But if you spend a whole day welding, you got like properly fucked up if you didn't wear that stuff. Oh, Johnny Winter, thank you for the 50 DKKs. He said, one drunk dad home safe. Damn, he can talk when he's drunk. Did I miss all the good stuff? Of course you did, sir. Of course you did. And drunk people are talkative. That's actually the one thing that I do like when I get my drink on is I'm like, I get life of the party kind of talking levels. Like people just get like fucking worn out and want to go home after experiencing me for an hour when I'm drunk. I mean, just look at me sober. MD Hofsty said it was your sound from your Microsoft Edge browser coming through your stream. It was actually Chrome. You might want to check your settings in OBS. That might have messed it up.
A blip of me was coming through when I was getting loud. Yeah,
that's fine.
That's fine.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. You guys don't got to worry about it. All right, well, we're gonna start wrapping up because it is 1:13 p.m.
Yes, sir.
So, and we got to get old AuxxZillary back to his life, and we got to get me to maybe go outside and ride my e-bike a little bit more. I did yesterday for like the second time in a week. I've ridden my e-bike a little bit. I'm kind of working up and getting a little more adventurous. So hopefully I can get out and do a lot more. If you guys were wondering, I did get shots in my back. I got steroid shots on both sides. It's the first time they've done that. So I got to wait like 5 or 6 days for that to kick in fully. But hopefully that'll give me some relief and I can maybe start living my life a little bit more. I'll never get my life back 100%. They already told me that ship sailed, but at least I'll be better, hopefully better than I was. Hey, Run.exe, thank you for that last minute $5 super chat. He said, how's Bat Knife doing? P.S. I sent the knife sharpener. Sorry it didn't work. Oh, I remember. I still have that knife sharpener. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And just so you guys can see Bat Knife before we go, it still will always have a home. This is the original. You get stabbed by that, you're going to die from tetanus. But yeah, that's the OG Bat Knife right there. Still original paint, original patina, and it lives under my desk connected to 2 super glued WD green neodymium magnets, and it just has a good old time. But guys, thank you so much for hanging out today. I think David will be joining us next week. He had to do some family stuff today, and I will be back over on Twitch Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You can find AuxXillary's streaming schedule and David's streaming schedule and links down in this video description. And if you guys want to talk to us offline or suggest topics for the next Tech Talk, you can do so by tweeting us at our respective Twitters or just tagging us all together, because we love jumping on a thread where we're all tagged. So get after it, and we'll catch you guys next time. And on that bombshell, let's give him a little, let's give him a little peace symbol for the thumbnail. Nice. All right, catch you later, guys. Thank you so much for the super chats and stuff. We really do appreciate it.
Bye. And go check out nevereverband.com.